Yeah, I've been closer to Jesus before, so can you help me out? Oh, can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Can you help me out? I've been scared to look at my soul. I've been afraid I would follow alone. Yeah, afraid of the things I've been told.
What up? It's a Wednesday edition of Running Point on YSNLive.com. Who knows? This might even be the last episode we do, depending on what happens with the state address by Governor DeWine today. I mean, who knows what's going to happen? But welcome into a Wednesday edition of Running Points. Ron Potesta with you alongside Anthony Hardwig. I guess 5:30 is going to be must-see TV, depending on what Governor DeWine does, and the rumors are abound and plentiful as to what DeWine is planning on doing today.
Yeah, and it's going to be something big because all the news stations have to put it on. So it's a mandate. So that means it's going to be something that affects a great amount of people. You know, the rumors are different, and we'll just have to wait till 5:30. We might not be on Friday.
Yeah. This has gone anywhere from.
It might be the purge.
The state of Ohio is going to tell everyone to wear a mask. That's a possibility, and it makes sense because if you're going to put every TV station to cover this press conference, that's one way to basically get the word out that y'all need to wear a mask and it's now a state law. Okay, that makes sense. It could also be to announce that Governor DeWine does not want schools to start on time, and hence we don't have a fall football season or a fall athletic season. It's temporarily suspended. That makes sense as well. We've heard some outer edge stuff saying that perhaps Governor DeWine is going to resign today. I can't see that happening, but as long as he doesn't pull an R. Bud Dwyer, okay, that's for those that don't get the reference, and I still, when I think of what I saw in the early mid '80s on live television, a guy killing himself on live TV was just
don't do it.
Is just bone chilling. If you never saw this, R. Bud Dwyer was the Pennsylvania Secretary of State, and he had a press conference, and everyone in the front row had a manila envelope, which was his suicide note, and he had a manila envelope. Inside his manila envelope, as everyone found out in the horror of all of this, was a loaded .45 that he put to his head and blew his head off on national TV or local TV, and it was ridiculous. So as long as Governor DeWine doesn't do an R. Bud Dwyer...
How have I never heard of this?
No, it was nuts. I was talking to a friend of mine who now lives outside of New York City, and we're watching it at the same time. And when he pulled the gun out, I was like, holy shit, this guy's going to kill himself on TV. And before I even got the sentence out, he put the gun to his mouth and blew his head off. I was just like, I was stupefied by all of that.
On live TV.
On live TV. I was stupefied by it. So as long as something like that doesn't happen,
Well, I think we're pretty safe that that's not going to. I'm pretty sure there have been protocols after that.
Yeah. I would think that you would have at least a 7-second delay where if someone does something that absurd, you just basically say, yeah, we're not going to show this, so put a test pattern on all the TVs if that happens. You brought up something that, look, it's funny, but in today's world, who knows now, where you sat back and said, well, maybe they're going to have the purge. So if the dude starts coming on, yeah, that's where I'm going to be hightailing out of Ohio. I'm like, yeah, okay, we're going to scoot over into Pennsylvania now, and yeah, I don't want any part of this, but oh my God. So who knows what happens? It's at 5:30, and it's going to be must-see TV, and who knows what we're going to get out of it. But
I think the first thing you said is probably the most likely. Is probably going to be protocols on school coming back, because that's an important thing as we get into August, and then probably something along the lines of the mask protocol and what it's going to be statewide, because he's already come out and made certain counties, mandatory. Trumbull being one of them.
Yes, it's now 16 counties of the 88 counties in the state of Ohio that are now mandated to wear a mask because they are in the, the red, the orange, the burnt orange, the Cleveland Browns orange. I don't know what color it is.
I think it's Texas orange.
Yeah, well, it's,
It's that rust orange,
whatever color it is, it ain't a good color.
Ain't a good thing. It's not a good thing in Texas, and it's not a good thing here.
Well, and Governor DeWine will make the announcement because we sure as hell won't get an announcement from the milquetoast clown that's in charge of the OHSAA right now, Bob Goldring. Based on what he said yesterday, I'm just scratching my head wondering in what world is it okay for a guy who is allegedly the guy in charge of the OHSAA? In what world is it okay for this guy to sit back and say, I'm not going to use my authority, and furthermore, I'm going to let every school decide what they want to do? Are you kidding me with that? Because I mean, here's a little spoiler alert for everyone. If you allow the schools to sit back and pick and choose which sport they're going to want to play, conferences are going to be extinct within a year. Because it's not fair to have 8 teams in a conference and all 8 of them are not going to be fielding a team because they don't want to, and then they turn around in another sport where they're prominent, and then they're going to sit back and go, well, we're really good at this, so we're going to play this sport, but we're not going to play this. Get out of here with that.
But I mean, I didn't hear his full statement, but Title IX still exists, so they can't just say we're just going to get rid of football and that's just going to be what it's going to, because then someone will say, well, we don't have the Title IX requirements.
Yeah.
So I imagine there's still those, law restrictions to what schools can and can't do. Maybe what the OHSA is saying, we're not going to mandate that you have to play football. If you have what if you're in Trumbull County right now and you're in the red zone or whatever, and you don't feel completely safe or sturdy to play football in your school, you don't feel like you have the resources, whatever it may be. I think that's what the point was, but then he took it a step further and just took a little cowardly move and said, we're not going to have any authority at all. And now a lot of high schools are going to be like, well, then what do we need you for?
Exactly.
Right? I mean,
if you're the governing body and you're not planning on being a governing body, then why the hell do we have a governing body in the first place?
I think he was shooting at the right target. He just completely missed it, and now that statement just came off really cowardly.
Absolutely, really. It was cavalier and not in a good way. It just look. I mean, if you're going to be the person that's in charge of this entity, and you're supposed to be the guy calling the shots, albeit in an interim basis, friggin' do it. You're the guy in charge. Start laying the groundwork for these rules that everyone has to adhere to. Otherwise, you need to get the hell out of the way and let the ADs talk amongst themselves and let the schools in this state police themselves and do their own thing. I was amazed, and not in a good way, with this absurd announcement from Bob Goldring yesterday. You talk about a cowardly move. Oh my gosh, look, I understand you're an interim and the OHSAA is looking for someone, but the OHSAA took a step down, 5 flights worth of stairs down from Jerry Snodgrass to Bob Goldring.
When you're an interim, wouldn't that make you more incentivized to do something? I mean, to me, it feels like that would be your time to kind of step up and try to be someone to look at.
Absolutely.
Not this.
I mean, you don't want to be Alexander Haig and take everything over, but by the same token, I mean, you're an interim, And I got to assume that he's somewhat interested in this job. Show a little bit of moxie. Show a little bit of your leadership ability. To sit here and say, well, we're going to let the schools decide for themselves, then why do we need your company? Go, leave. The only reason why the OHSAA exists is to give away state championships at the end of the year. I think if the athletic directors across the state of Ohio all got together and said, hey, we're going to use the OHSAA's template, I don't think we need the OHSAA. Everyone can just basically say, we're going to police ourselves, and at the end of the day, there you go. Now, having said all of that, we kind of sort of do need the OHSAA. Otherwise, anarchy in terms of recruiting and all the other illegal crap would be running rampant in the state of Ohio.
Yeah, if it's not the right, you need a governing body. It might not be the OHSAA might be out and replaced with something else, but you need something that's going to be there and be like, this isn't right. This isn't right. This is good. Someone to approve transfers and things like that. I mean, without it, it'll be the wild, wild west. And while it'd be fun to watch, it might not be fun to participate in for the schools and the students.
No, it definitely wouldn't. And if we did have a wild, wild west, pretty soon the public schools would break away from the parochial schools. And I can tell you, as someone who lived in a state that had separate entities, it doesn't work out well. It is a terrible idea. Might sound good on paper, but the fact that if you separate parochial schools from public schools, now all of the coverage is going to go to the larger public schools and the larger parochial schools, and the smaller schools like Leetonia, Lisbon, Columbiana, Wellsville, South Range,
Sebring,
Southern. Some of these smaller schools, they're not going to get a sniff of coverage because everyone's going to be more interested in the larger schools, because the notion, and I don't necessarily agree with it, but the notion is, well, these guys play a better brand of sports because they're bigger, so we're going to follow them.
Well, shameless plug, that's what makes YSN great. We've always been the people that cover you no matter how big or small you are. I mean, we have big schools on this board, and we have small schools on this board.
Absolutely.
But we cover every game of every single one of them.
Absolutely.
So we don't discriminate based on your size or your win-loss total.
We are an oasis for the smaller schools.
Come to us, all who are not covered.
Somehow I can see DJ holding like a lit flame, being the Statue of Liberty for all the smaller schools. Yeah. Come, you smaller schools that are lacking of appreciation.
If it goes this way, and these small schools start to lose all amount of coverage, that's going to be a graphic for YSN.
Oh, absolutely. We need DJ Oakley to be dressed up as the Statue of Liberty and just basically be the statue of media coverage for the smaller schools.
And the YSN shield could be the
torch. YSN shield could be on this. I think it's a great idea.
Torch. I mean, it fits the torch.
Absolutely. It can be the torch. I mean, look, if he's going to put my head on the American Dream Dusty Rhodes, which was hilarious, by the way, it's only right that we have him as the Statue of Liberty and have a nice little saying, which would be really cool.
Well, we'll take over the state if that happens, because there are a lot more small schools than there are.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely. So, like I said, I didn't like the milquetoast response by Bob Goldring, and you talk about not making a good first impression. Well, that would certainly be one of those.
That's like showing up to a date with a V-neck that looks more like a W neck. That's just
it's kind of like
bad first impression.
Well, yeah, the commercial with the two kids out on a date, and the girl makes the compliment, and you look comfortable.
Comfortable?
Yeah, well, that's lovely. You don't want to look comfortable on a first date. First dates are not supposed to be comfortable.
It's supposed to be awkward.
Yeah, you're supposed to be as comfortable as being in a dentist chair when you get a root canal. That's not comfortable, kids. I'll tell you who is comfortable, however. It's Myles Garrett, who's about to get a lot of money. Thank you. I kind of think that I have done this for a while to have one of those segments.
Big bucks right there, because he goes segue like that, and that's why he's a professional.
Oh wow,
Man.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but
And Myles Garrett is sitting pretty comfortable.
He is sitting really comfortable
Whether
as he and the Browns are about to hook up on a long-term deal. And look, I got crucified by certain people on social media that don't understand the complexities of football in general. Myles Garrett is not worth $25 million a year. He has not played like someone who's worth $25 million a year, albeit last year until his incredibly stupid decision to bonk Mr. Who's its head
Rudolph
with his own helmet and get suspended for the rest of the year. Myles Garrett was having a very nice year up until that moment. But that was the first year that Myles Garrett actually had a relatively decent year for a first pick overall.
He had 10 sacks in his first complete season, 16 games in 18. 17, he only played 11 games, and I think he had 7 sacks.
Yeah.
So he's played one complete season.
He has never really taken over a game per se.
That's the knock. I mean, you look at him on film, and it's like, my word, this guy's one of the best pass rushers in the league.
Oh, absolutely.
Just his moves, his athleticism, his way, almost his body control is so good off the edge.
Yes.
But he hasn't yet impacted a game in a big way that I've seen. Like one of those big impact plays that really changes the momentum of a game. I mean, he's only forced like 3 fumbles in his career.
Now,
so he's not getting strip sacks, despite him getting 30 sacks. Almost none of them are strip sacks.
Now, having said all of this, the Browns did this for a reason.
Well, yes.
They believe that the upside of Myles Garrett, and they are gambling on the fact that Myles Garrett has historically worked his butt off every offseason. He is motivated. There's no two ways about it. He's a very motivated young man, and the Browns are gambling on the fact that his motivation plus his upside is going to equal Myles Garrett being a Defensive Player of the Year caliber football player worthy of the $25 million. Is he currently worthy of $25 million a year? Hell no, he's not.
Based on what he's done.
Based on what he's done, he's not.
Based on what he can do.
Exactly.
What you see on film. And that's the Browns' perspective right now. They see him on film. They see what he's up projecting. He's only played one complete season, and they're banking on him being consistently great.
And
the film says he will be.
It's a good decision if you are looking at the metrics of all of this. And again, metrics don't determine everything. Now, I can tell you right now, Myles Garrett was taught by the best. Bruce Smith was in Cleveland Myles Garrett's rookie year, teaching him all the stuff that Myles Garrett has done. There is a very nice, tight relationship that these two guys have. Now, as everyone knows, I'm a huge Bills fan. Much like Myles Garrett, Bruce Smith was not a very good defensive lineman the first 3 years of his league. He had a DUI. He was very unmotivated and did not have a full motor his first 3 years. Like Myles Garrett, he did a lot of stupid things off the field. And like Myles Garrett, he did a lot of things on the field that weren't exactly great, but you could see greatness within him if someone motivated him enough. I think Myles Garrett has the chance to be more like Bruce Smith and less of a bust. But right now, he's not worth the money. But I do believe down the road, I think he will be worth the money. All right, we got a B-League spotlight to do, and our guest is now calling in. That would be our boss, technically our boss. He's the
general manager
of YSN, and he also happens to be the skipper for the Astro Falcons 16U team that won again yesterday, and that would be Steve Leslie. Steve, how are you, sir?
What's going on, boys?
Well, we're working and wondering if Governor DeWine is going to say something interesting this afternoon at 5:30.
Yeah, I think there's going to be some interesting information for sure. And, I think he's in a tough spot again. But from a sports standpoint, I just think that there needs to be some kind of leadership and a decision that's made, and let's kind of stick to it. You know what I mean? It's these kids are putting in the time, coaches are working out, and everything's still in limbo, and we're nearing the end of July. So I think Governor DeWine's going to make some type of decision on this fall sports for sure.
Well, I mean, obviously he's going to have to pick up the ball because Bob Goldring sure as hell didn't.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure on how you can leave it up to schools when they're all in these conferences, and like you guys were talking, you know, some schools will want to play, some won't. And scheduling becomes even a harder issue than it already is with this COVID. So, you know, sports in general, Ronnie's in a tough time. You know, I look at what we've done at the park. I think we've done fairly well with the COVID and the social distancing and the cleansing of things. And to my knowledge, we've had no COVID incidents. So, you know, for the last month for us baseball-wise, it's been pretty good.
Steve, speaking of baseball, boy, your Astro Falcons team, that 16U team is some kind of impressive. You certainly have a good balance of pitching and hitting, and my goodness, that team is very impressive.
Well, I appreciate that. You know what? The first thing that I will say about them is, as a group, they get along very well together. They play very well together. And I think you've been around baseball long enough, you know that. They are pretty united on what they do. We play a lot of guys. They understand their roles. They understand their situations. But it's a great group of kids with a great group of parents and really a talented bunch for sure.
Okay, you coached the 16U and the 14U teams of the graduating class of 2020, the Chase Frankens and some of the other kids that had won world championships in NABF in 14 and 16U. I'm going to put you on the spot because you know I love doing this. If you put that team that you managed a few years ago up against the team that you're managing right now in a best-of-5 series, how does that go?
Man, you're putting me in a tough spot here. I love all these kids, but you know, I would answer you like I think this group that I have this year has a lot of similarities of the teams that we won the World Series with. Good pitching, good defense, great leadership. You know, Chase and Ricky Avrilla and Connor Miller and those guys were very good leaders for our organization. And, you know, this group kind of fits in the same way. We got some very talented 15-year-olds with a Tino Campoli as a 16-year-old that kind of leads the way for us with Tyler Staub. So I think it would be a great series. I'm a little disappointed that this group won't get the chance to compete in that, but life goes on. But, you know, those three teams that won the World Series were awful talented, so this group would definitely have their hands full.
Steve, your lineup is so deep. When I write these stories at night and I'm looking at the box scores, it seems like every night with the 16U Astro Falcons, I'm picking a different kid to highlight because it seems like every night there's a different kid on the box score that you know shows up. Talk about the depth of your team and especially the offensive lineup and what it's like to have that.
Well, I think the offensive lineup's very good, and I think that we can get you in a lot of ways. We like to run, but we also have some pop in the middle of the order. Obviously, you know, Tyler Staub as a leadoff hitter is a quick leadoff guy that's talented. And then, you know, the middle of the order, you're looking at 4 15-year-olds that are very talented, that are being recruited already by some colleges, and Slanker and A.J. Avrilla and Anthony Miller and Cole Constable. Those are 4 15s that sit in the middle of our lineup and have been very consistent in driving runs. And Tino Campoli and Ryan Petro are 2 16s that sit in the middle there, 2 6 and 7 that are very capable of hurting you. And, you know, you look at the back end of our lineup. Griffin Windrig's with us. He starts on Ballistic's Big B team and hits 7 or 8 for us as a big key. And Luca Ricciuti hitting 10 and playing second base. I've coached a long time, Anthony and Ron, and Ricciuti and Miller at short and second are as good as I've had in the middle and turning double play. So it's a pretty dynamic team for sure.
Last night you had a really good pitching performance from Gerdick, and you know I was saying on the air, okay, his fastball is nice, but that breaking ball of his, good Lord, if he can harness that and consistently throw it in the strike zone, the movement that kid gets on. I think it's either a combination of a curve and slider, or I don't know which one it is, but it's got an awful lot of movement on it. And I was telling DJ today, okay, I do like his fastball, but I love his breaking stuff.
No, it's funny that you say that because he's been a little inconsistent his last couple times out.
Steve, are you there? Oh, boy.
Yesterday I remember saying to my coaches, he was at like 44 pitches in the end of the fourth and fifth inning. So throwing strikes is key for him. He's got a very good breaking ball. But our pitching has been outstanding all year. Guys, we run out on a daily basis. Tino Campoli has been our ace on the bump. Anthony Miller is one of those guys that can beat you anytime. Ryan Petro. We're pretty deep in pitching. That's why, we've been fortunate enough. We've been able to go play, 13, 14 games in tournaments.
One of the things that really stands out when you look at the Class B scores, I know last night you guys had a lopsided win, but overall, the scores have gotten more and more competitive as this summer has gone on. When you look at them, what kind of development have you seen from all these teams throughout the summer from beginning to end?
I think the league has developed pretty well. There's a lot of good teams in Little B. Frankie Giordano Nightline is a very good baseball team. They gave us their only loss. They have quality pitching, and Jay Coral and the young boy, they hit it pretty well, and they're like your typical juice team. They play hard, but their edge is talented. Coach does a great job with them, and I think the biggest thing for me is the middle tier teams and the teams that are maybe struggling record-wise have definitely improved from the first time we played them to the second time for sure. So I think the league as a whole has gotten better as these kids have gotten more at-bats, and that's kind of the thing we expected.
14U, and I've been doing an awful lot of 14U games, whether it be umpiring or broadcasting games. And 14U's hit and miss, depending on how consistent pitchers are in throwing strikes. And I say this to bring up the fact that, again, the Astro Falcons, they live on their pitching. And, boy, do you have some interesting pitchers that are going to probably be graduating into 16U. And Mr. Schneider at the top of the list, that kid has something about him where he can turn out to be very special.
Yeah, Jake Spyder is one of those kids with a bright future, Ronnie. We played in a 15-year tournament a couple weeks ago and won it in Dayton. Actually, we have 9 15-year-olds, so we brought up 4 or 5 14-year-olds, and Jake actually pitched a championship game for us and threw very well. And Rishel, the other good pitcher, threw for us down there as well. Nicky Lewis caught some games. So, and Scott's son Colton is also a good pitcher. So there's a lot of talent on our 14U roster. We spend a lot of time with it, and I credit a lot of it to Pletz at the top. He gets a lot of our kids' looks and some attention at the college ranks, and that's definitely the case there. Like I told you, some of these 15-year-olds are already getting some pretty good looks by some pretty nice colleges.
The season's winding down. The playoffs are on the horizon. What kind of strategy changes as you guys get ready for the playoffs here in a couple weeks?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a great question. Like this weekend, we're invited to Solon to play against Release's 16-year-old team, and the Longhorns were going to go away from Thursday through Sunday and play some games, 4 games there, and we have 2 league games left at the park. So a busy weekend. I will probably get some of our regulars off their feet a little bit, give them a little time off. But the biggest thing for us is to continue to get our pitchers their innings. That will be the key. And, it's nice that you finish first or second and you get a little bit of advantage that we'll get the bye of that first round of the playoffs. So, our league ends Monday. So we hope to have our pitching staff set for the playoffs. And, the playoffs is a whole different world. There's going to be a lot of good teams. You're going to get everybody's best. The pitch counts come into play. The day's rest come into play when you're going to start playing playoffs every day. So there becomes a little more strategy in it. But my staff with Bubba Bogner and Coach Doug Widrick, they do a good job of communicating. And we'll get our pitching staff lined up, get the horses out this weekend, and then back off them until the playoffs go to following week.
Steve, if anything, and this is a yearly reminder with B-League baseball, the talent that this area has in baseball is pretty significant. And I've joked the last few weeks that Western Pennsylvania and the kids that come from Western PA, I call them the Latin American the version of B-League baseball, because the Latin American kids that have invaded minor league baseball, the Western PA kids, are starting to invade B-League baseball. But it's just another gentle reminder that there is some very good kids that are playing in a 5 and 6 county area, in the 3 counties of Trumbull, Mahoning, and Columbiana, and the 3 counties over in PA, Lawrence, Mercer, and Beaver counties, some of them over in Allegheny County. It's just a general reminder that there is some really good baseball being played in the Mahoning Valley and on into Western PA.
Oh, there's no question that our league attracts a lot of good players. We get a lot of kids from PA, not that we don't like the local kids, but let's be honest, our communities around here have shrunk a little bit. A lot of kids doing a lot of different things. Some kids not playing baseball. So PA has been very good for a lot of the organizations in our leagues. There's a lot of good kids. And, my take on it is if a kid comes and plays in your league and, wants to be that guy that drives an hour or an hour and a half, God bless him, because that says you got a pretty good baseball league.
Yeah, and I like that you brought up the travel to get here from some of these places. What does that say about these kids' dedication if they're willing to make that travel and be there with the team and really make sacrifices to be there?
Well, that's a big point for us. A prime example for me is Cole Constable. Anthony is from Erie. His dad's the head baseball coach at Erie Prep. Made an inquiry to us, would like to play, and his parents love coming to the park. The hour and 25, hour and 30-minute ride, they do not mind at all. They like the competition, and, they love what they see and the exposure they get. So, I think our league gets a lot of exposure. I think when all our teams from in our league go play in tournaments, people are well aware of the Class B teams and the talent that's down the park.
Hey, Steve, always a pleasure. Congratulations on an incredible season to this point. You got some unfinished business to attend to and when the playoffs begin. So hopefully we'll see a really interesting playoff run, not just from you, but from the other 5 teams that are going to be invited into the 16U tournament. And Lord knows what's going to happen. I mean, I know you guys and Dura Edge and Nightline are pretty much in. It's a free-for-all with the other 7 teams to figure out who the 3 representatives will be.
Yeah, it's going to be a battle here down the end. I like Avalanche. We haven't played them yet, so we play them Friday and Monday. And, they still have an opportunity. So that's the good part about our league. It's pretty balanced. And, like I told you, it's a brand new season. And what you do in the regular season, you better put that away and not sit at it, because somebody will come up and bite you. But, man, you put me in a tough spot with those questions. I'm going to probably have to answer to some of my boys, the older guys, and like, Coach, what are you, crazy? We would bury those guys, because like Ricky and AJ have that battle all the time, Ronnie, that who's better and Coach, what team's better. So I'm lucky. I've been able to coach great kids. We have great kids in our organization, and you look at, Chase and Ricky and Connor Miller and those guys, they've won 3 World Series. Connor's going for football, and Chase is on his way to YSU, and Ricky's going to have a great career at Tiffin. So we do a pretty good job of getting our guys.
Listen, if I really wanted to put you on the spot, I would just flat out ask which one is going to be better long term, Ricky or AJ. But I'm not going to ask that.
No, don't ask that one. I'm gonna. Ricky is probably Ronnie, my most other than my son, the most favorite kid I've ever coached, because he works really hard. He puts a lot of time into the game. He's a great teammate, and he does those things. Now, AJ, I will tell you, you saw it last night, Ronnie. I don't know if you remember, but that play he made on first base on the short hop ground ball to his right is probably one of the better defensive plays I've seen. And he is that type of kid that continues to work at it. He's got a great big body, and there's a lot of people that are going to be interested in AJ Havrilla for sure.
Oh, no doubt. And we had this conversation not too long ago. The Schneider and Havrilla both go to Canfield. I wouldn't want to be playing Canfield High School the next 3 to 4 years in baseball, because that team assuming that we have baseball anytime soon, that team is going to be absolutely loaded.
No, yeah, you look at my team, you have Ben Slanker, the center fielder, will be a sophomore. AJ will be a sophomore. Ryan Petro will be a junior. Nate Shaw is there, will be a junior. Gerdick will be a junior. So there's a lot of talent for Coach Niddle at Campfield. And, I just hope that we get some good news from Governor at 5:30 that sports will be able to continue. Because let's be honest, he could come out and stop us at the park at any time.
Yeah, that's the other thing that I didn't want to bring up, but obviously at 5:30 he could pretty much have not only the end of baseball season, but basically say we're going to delay the start of schools and we're going to delay the fall season, and oh, by the way, we're shutting everything down right now. I mean, that would be a nightmare for everyone concerned, given the fact that this season, and I knock on wood as I say it, Steve, we really haven't had a problem in terms of health anywhere from Scene Park, and I, by and large, I think that B-League has handled this situation very well under the circumstances.
No, I appreciate that, and Scott has done a great job with it. Our managers and our coaches have done a great job with it. I think we went to 2 tournaments and played in the Akron-Cleveland area. I did not notice any problems there. They were well prepared for things, so keep your fingers crossed, I guess, is all we can do. And, again, I have the utmost respect for Governor DeWine and what he's going to want to do. He's in a tough spot, but with the OHSAA kind of backing out of it a little bit, he's really becoming a tough spot.
Hey, Steve, always a pleasure. Look forward to catching up with you on Thursday at the Ball Yard. And, fingers crossed that we complete the season.
All righty. And thanks for all you guys do with the show and for all you do for DJ and I with YSN. It's only going to get bigger and better for sure, and hopefully there's a fall for us to get ready to go.
Okay, now you can put the hat of the coach off and put your GM hat on and just critique what Anthony and I have been doing.
I'm going to give you a high again. For you guys to do a show the way you do it, your knowledge of sports is good. You like to stir things up a little bit, which I love. You'll ask that tough question. The guests that both of you have gotten, Tim Street from the OHSA, has become very close with us. I love what you do. I love the show. I love the hour show that DJ's doing. We're the local sports. We've partnered with FMJ, and we're proud of that. But you two doing a show before there was even Class B baseball, hats off to both of you, because I don't think I can do that. People that know me know that I love to talk, but there's no way that I would be able to, with my ADD and every other thing I have, to sit for 3 hours and talk like you do. So hats off on my end of it to both of you.
Steve, real quick, the social media question of the day today. What is your favorite sports memorabilia that you own?
I read that. And you know what? The best memorabilia that I own, I'm going to go to my brother-in-law, David Lee Morgan, when he was covering Akron St. Vincent St. Mary's and wrote the book on LeBron James. I have a Akron St. V's game jersey signed by LeBron James.
Nice.
Yeah, so I would put that up there. You know what? One of the ones that I'm really proud of that I have an autographed ball of Omar Vizquel, and I just love the way he played the game of baseball.
You and me both, and it's a crime he's not in Cooperstown.
Yeah, it is,
yet.
but I think hopefully someday he will. But when you watch guys play with enthusiasm and effort, there's not too many that played it the way he did.
Agreed. All right, Steve, have a good day, sir.
All righty, take care.
Appreciate it. And there he goes, the manager of the 16U program, and he happens to be our general manager. And the check's in the mail for the nice comments. Didn't really, think that he was going to say that, but the check's in the mail. Yeah. I don't know how much we're going to give you, but the check's in the mail. All right. What's the best piece of memorabilia that you got?
I could go both, because he went with the big name players, the autographs that he has, and those are always cool to say that you have them. So I have Calvin Johnson's autograph from when he was in Georgia Tech. I have him autographed on the football program. Sean Johnson, the Olympic gold medalist gymnast. But I'm going to go a little bit sentimental and say the softball that I have from the first pitch I threw out at Georgia Tech, signed by the team. That's going to be my, I'm thinking of it, if I had like 3 minutes to save as much stuff as I could, that'd probably be one of the first things I grab, and it's on my desk out there. So I'm going to go with that one.
Interesting. All right. I mean, there's pieces of memorabilia that have sentimental value, maybe not as much monetary value, but it's more sentimental value than anything else. You would think all the years that I was in baseball, I would have all kinds of different stuff, and the truth is, I don't. I've thrown away more really good stuff than, and not on my volition. It was mysteriously thrown away. I'm not gonna blame anyone, Mom. But I had an opportunity when I was, I want to say 10, to watch Gale Sayers speak on behalf of the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and he was in Salem, and he spoke, and somewhere, I don't know where, somewhere in my archives, and there's plenty of them, there's an autograph of Gale Sayers where I had an opportunity to have him sign something. Bob Feller, I have an autographed picture of him. My Dodgers jersey that was given to me from the Vero Beach Dodgers. Was an official LA Dodgers jersey with my name on the back of it as my going away gift when I left Vero for Jackson, Tennessee. Southern League baseballs, bunch of different knick-knack type of items, but as far as jerseys go or anything like that, no, I never got around to collecting any of that stuff, which is kind of a shame. All the prospects that I saw coming out of Jackson when they were the Cubs affiliate, you would have thought that I would have grabbed some stuff from some of the guys.
Yeah, but you can't because you're a media member, so it'd be frowned upon for the person in the media that covers the team to go ask for autographs. It's one of those unwritten rules. I mean, we've talked about it before.
The night that Michael Jordan scored 69 on Cleveland, I had a couple of friends of mine who were going to Latonia. I think they were either in junior high or just going into high school, and I was really good friends with their family. So they knew that I was going to be going to that game, and they asked if I could have Michael Jordan sign a couple of things. Well, it's kind of frowned upon.
But that's a once-in-a-lifetime thing.
But so it is. It absolutely is. So Michael Jordan signed his Wheaties box for a friend of mine, and I got him to sign the back of my media credential from the night he scored 69 on Cleveland. Somewhere in the attic.
You better have it.
I have it.
Thrown away.
I do have an unopened, uncut one of those. You know how the Wheaties boxes are, where before they're formed into a box. Mm-hmm. I have an uncut, unopened 1995 Cleveland Indians Wheaties box, and it didn't have any cereal in it because it was flat.
Okay.
So it was an uncut, unopened 1995 Indians World Series Wheaties box. And knock on wood, and see if I can get Vizquel and a couple of other players from that era to sign that to make it a little more valuable. I guess out of the top of my head, out of all the teams, the early 80s Baltimore Orioles, I graduated in 82, and the week before I graduated from high school at Latonia, Baltimore was in town in Cleveland, and I had an opportunity to have a large number of Baltimore Orioles sign this baseball. And I look at this ball, Eddie Murray has signed it, Jim Palmer has signed it, Brooks Robinson, who was the radio broadcaster at the time, I flagged him down trying to get him to sign it, and he signed it. The only person that's not signed this ball is the guy that probably should have signed it, and that's Cal Ripken. What do you have over there?
Is that a donut? There's a strawberry.
Yeah, I'm going to take this one because I'm not a big fan of the
Breakfast of Champions.
breakfast on top of the.
Anthony?
Good.
What are those? Fruit Loops?
We got Fruit Loops and then Fruit Pebbles.
Fruit Loop donut and a Fruity Pebbles
Can you see it
donut.
on- I don't- can you see
Yeah. That's where I draw the line.
That's where I draw.
I
it?
just,
That's where you draw the
I'm going to draw the line on that one.
That's where you draw
Yeah, I don't want Fruity Pebbles or Fruit Loops on my donut. I just want a donut.
I think we've drawn the line about 60 shades before Fruity Pebbles are on.
I mean, look, push comes to shove, I'll eat it, but I would much rather have a plain donut than a Fruity Pebbles or a Fruit Loops covered donut. That's just me.
I'm going to leave this box here, and we'll see if it's here at the end of the day.
It will be. Challenge accepted. It will be. I mean, Anthony might have it, but I'm not going to.
Okay.
So,
might-
challenge accepted.
I might frame you for it just to see what.
Wow, I appreciate that. Here goes. Hold on a second. The bus goes right over me. Put it in reverse. There it goes behind me. So, all right, coming up at 1 o'clock, we are going to hear from our golf guy, Brian Tolnar. We will get his tip, which I'm looking forward to writing down, and we will get his pick. When I hope and pray that his pick, our pick from last week, we hope to do a little bit better. Mr. Rose, poor Mr. Rose, he didn't even get out of the weekend. We picked him to win the tournament, and he didn't even survive the cut. More importantly, is Jason Kokrak, A, is he going to be taking part in this tournament? And B, does he break the string of 3 straight appearances in which he does not golf on the weekend?
Also, Tiger Woods is making his glorious return.
Yes, Tiger makes his glorious return in the house that Jack built, and the second greatest golfer will play on the greatest golfer's golf course, and it should be an awful lot of fun. I mean, what to expect from Tiger? I don't know.
Well, what I've heard is his practice has looked pretty good. He's looked sharp more than not. So, and he looked pretty good at that. I know it was just the exhibition, but that match with Phil and Peyton and Tom Brady, he was hitting some pretty good balls.
Yeah, and let's be honest. I mean, as great as Tiger Woods is, more importantly, a solid Tiger Woods equals ginormous TV ratings. So
Yes.
if Tiger Woods is in contention, you can expect high ratings on Saturday and Sunday from this tournament.
It'll be interesting to see how he handles no fans, because he always feeds off that energy.
This is true.
And also, the players that are behind him negatively feed off the energy because they hear the roar of Tiger's coming.
Exactly.
So it'll be interesting to see how he's affected by the no fans in the gallery.
So we will talk with Brian Tolnar about that, and we'll also get his take on which kind of golfers are going to be successful in this particular back end of the back-to-backer with Muirfield, and we'll get his opinion on that. We'll also get his tip of the week. That's coming up at the top of the hour. We'll take a timeout and take some phone calls. 330-886-0813. Back in a bit. Stick around.
21
Good evening,
News.
and thank you for joining us.
Let's get right to our top
More
story
experienced reporters
tonight. A new Wilmington
At
restaurant.
GM Lordstown,
telling more local stories
We'll look at
baby
efforts
boy
to
is
curb
recovering from a broken.
around our
Good
valley.
Community in
afternoon.
Niles,
We are
one
here in
Triangle Valley
Youngstown, right
business.
Because you expect
important for everyone. No place like home.
more local news.
In Mercer County
Before
Court.
they become life-threatening.
21 News is our valley's #1 local news.
Welcome home to a home made homier with Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods. Inspiration starts at BairdBrothers.com and is turned into reality when high-quality hardwoods are delivered right to your home. Baird Brothers has the latest design trends, shiplap and skinny lap interior siding, antique oak rustic flooring, and, well, you'll find them all at BairdBrothers.com. Ordered easily, delivered conveniently, enjoyed comfortably. BairdBrothers.com.
Hello, I'm Greg Burbick with G. Burbick Farms. For the last 100 years, my family has farmed in Columbiana and Mahoning counties. I began raising cattle in 1996 with the goal of providing a better product for you and your family on the dinner table. Our grass-fed and grain-supplemented black Angus beef are raised with no hormones, steroids, or antibiotics. We're known for our hometown-friendly service and incredible tasting products. We're locally owned and have customers across the tri-state area. Our products go from our farm to your family. Stop by our farm on New Buffalo Road or visit us on the web at gburbickfarms.com. Don't forget to like us on Facebook. G. Burbick Farms, it just tastes better.
Three 886-0813. That is the number to call. Ron Potesta with you. Anthony Hartwig on for the ride as well. It is a Wednesday edition of Running Point on YSNlive.com. And Anthony, I will piggyback on what we were, the gift that you gave me on Monday.
Did you try it? Did you get it?
I, as soon as the show was over on Monday, I had errands to run, and I went over to Morgan Oil. And for those that, and would I like to see them as a sponsor based on the food that they have? Abso-freaking-lutely.
Take a card next time you go.
Morgan Oil is on 224, and it is probably a 5-iron from the PA line. It's considered to be Lowellville, but it's on the PA line, and if you go over there, they have chicken that is out of this world. I mean, it is phenomenal, the chicken that they have. So I got a dozen wings, and I brought it home and put the very hot sauce on the chicken wings and basically devoured all but 4 or 5 of them. I put the other 4 or 5 in the refrigerator. Going to have that when I get off the air today. I got to tell you, Gates super hot sauce, barbecue sauce on the chicken. I am at a loss for words at how great that really was. I mean, really, really good food, made even better by this incredible product.
Can we finally say that no one does barbecue like Kansas City?
Kansas City and Memphis are 1 and 1A, because Memphis has a little tangier taste in their barbecue, a little more brown sugar in their barbecue. I'm not a fan of Carolina because they have the more liquidy. They don't have a lot of the spices. It's more liquidy. Kansas City's is a cross between North Carolina and Tennessee, a little more closer to Tennessee, but they don't have as much brown sugar in their sauce as Memphis does. Texas they have their own style, which is pretty darn good in and of its own right, but Memphis and Kansas City barbecue, as far as I'm concerned, 1 and 1A, and you can't go wrong with either one of those products.
You know, you can't sleep on Louisiana either.
Louisiana's got the Cajun sauce, which is
so if you like spicy.
Yeah, Cajun sauce is on a completely different level of spiciness.
There's a reason University of Louisiana is named the Raging Cajuns.
That area, and that's down in Lafayette, Louisiana. They had a team in the now defunct Texas-Louisiana League, which I broadcast games in 98 and 99. Their team was the Bayou Bullfrogs, and they had the LSU colors.
All right.
They had the purple and the the LSU colors, purple and gold, and they played their games where ULL's college baseball stadium is. Now, you want to talk about a really nice stadium.
Yes, yes.
Pine trees all behind the fences. So you have your normal normal size baseball field, maybe a little light in center field. I think it was 380. It wasn't 400 feet. But you had these gigantic pine trees behind the outfield fence. And if a guy tied into one, especially if the wind was blowing out, you'd see the ball go into the pine trees and just disappear.
Right.
Yeah.
Kind of like, it reminds me of Georgia's baseball stadium. They have the big pine trees in the outfield that the balls just kind of disappear right into.
Yeah. It was a beautiful, beautiful sight. And not too far away was the Cajun Dome, where their basketball program and the indoor sports are played. And the Ragin' Cajun Dome is, that's a pretty cool place in and of its own right as well. It's just a nice campus, beautiful, beautiful part of the state of Louisiana. But yeah, their food it's on a whole different level than anything I've experienced.
It's unique.
Yeah, it is. It's
the gumbo down there too.
If you go to New Orleans and you want gumbo, it's a unique experience. If you like sausage and rice, and you like your sausage hot,
sprinkling a little bit of voodoo,
sprinkle a little voodoo sauce and whatnot in it. Yeah, it's New Orleans is a
voodoo working.
Yeah, New Orleans is an interesting city, and the last time I was there was pre-Katrina, and it's just a different vibe altogether when you walk on Bourbon and a couple of the other iconic parts, the French Quarters, the iconic parts of New Orleans, and the music coming out of that city is just incredible. It's one of my favorite places.
It's the home of jazz, so
absolutely,
nothing beats that.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to have Brian Tolnar on in a couple of minutes. We'll get his take on who he believes is going to be an instant contender in the latest stop on the PGA Tour, which, well, it's going to be the same place. That would be the Muirfield. This one is the Memorial. This is the tournament that is hosted by Jack Nicklaus every year, and Tiger Woods is going to be on the course. Jason Kokrak is going to be playing golf. He will be teeing off at 12:22 tomorrow afternoon. Tiger will be teeing off at 1:17 tomorrow afternoon.
Because they put Tiger with DeChambeau, and DeChambeau's been playing really well this whole season. So
I don't think there is a coincidence there, because if you look at the future of golf, with all due respect to Rory McIlroy and some of the other golfers,
he's established. So if you're looking for someone that's not quote unquote established yet,
yeah,
you got to look to Bryson DeChambeau.
And he looks just like Tiger physique wise.
Yeah.
They're both ripped, cut, whatever you want to say.
Tiger brought it. It was almost after Tiger it was okay to be fit and be a golfer.
Yeah.
Before that, it was almost like it wasn't almost. You had to be kind of that.
Yeah, before that, you had a lot of John Daly's running around.
I didn't want to go that far.
Well, I mean, look, it's not a bad thing. It's, if you got a pork belly and you can hit the ball a mile, there's nothing wrong with that.
But then Tiger came on the scene, and man, he was ripped. And then all of a sudden, now golfers are a little bit more chiseled.
Yeah, they're a little more chiseled. They got a little more workout in them, and
they can wear the tight shirts.
Absolutely. And chicks dig the tight guy instead of the fat guy,
and the long ball,
and the long ball. So there you go, It's as long as you are okay with your significant other and you don't get a 5-wood thrown at you like some people.
Don't do what Tiger Woods did.
Don't do that, please don't. So we'll talk with Brian Tolnar at the top of the hour, and we'll get his prediction and his power rankings, and more importantly, his tip of the week.
Tip of the week.
That is all coming up in a bit. Stick around, more to come. It's a Wednesday edition of Running Point on YSNLive.com.
Ah, the details. Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods is one fine ride. Perfect cornering, superb handling, sporty and stylish, power to spare, plus awesome mileage. Yeah, jaw-droppingly beautiful lines and well-appointed with luxurious trim. Put more oomph in your life and start beholding the molding. Find your home's fine hardwood at BairdBrothers.com.
Storm season.
I think we're under the gun for some heavy storms over the next couple of hours.
And Storm Tracker 21 is ready.
This is probably the one we're keeping a closer eye on.
On air.
And locally, we're going to have a lot of eyes on our area.
Online.
All right, let's talk high-risk futurecast and the timing of this weather.
On social media and on our app.
Day in the showers, I'm keeping my eye on in parts of Columbiana County.
Stay ready with Storm Tracker 21.
The severe weather threat now through around sunset this evening.
Hi everyone, this is DJ Yoakley with Your Sports Network. We appreciate your support of YSN and welcome you to the YSN family. Our broadcast streams are brought to you live at no cost to you by sponsors that are local to this community. Without the vision and generosity of our sponsors and partners, we would not be able to bring this game to you today. So please support the great businesses and leaders that are making this game possible. And if you're a business in need of great advertising and sponsorship opportunities, feel free to head over to our site for more information on the right fit for you. We are local, we are loyal, and we are live. We are YSN.
It is a Wednesday edition of Running Points on YSNLive.com. Ron Potesta with you alongside Anthony Hardwig, and we are pleased to be joined by our Wednesday guest. Every Wednesday at this time, he is the guru of golf in this area. He runs Mill Creek, and he does a fine job doing that as well. He is Brian Solnar. And Brian, before we even start talking about the Memorial and the second consecutive golf tournament to be played at Muirfield, let's talk about Mill Creek and talk about just how busy you guys have been the last month and a half, 2 months.
I'll tell you what, we've been crazy busy, which is a great thing for us. June was probably the best month that we've had since I've been here, and July is starting to go in that direction as well. If we can do that in June, July, and August, we'll be in great shape, make up a lot for not being open in March and April and a couple of days here in May. But all in all, it's been a great year. A lot of people that have left the game of golf have now been reinvigorated and got back into the fray, and we're happy to have them back. We do a lot of things for the families here at Mill Creek. Family golf night we do on Fridays and Saturdays. So it's brought a lot of people to the table that really haven't got an opportunity to play the game, giving them some access to the golf course, and with our kids' tees on both of the 18-hole courses here at Mill Creek. Makes for a fun night for the family, and it's relatively inexpensive for a family of four, $25. Many holes as you can play Fridays and Saturdays after 4:30. We just ask you to call and book a tee time, and the families have been into it. They've been buying stuff in the golf shop and having dinner afterwards at hole 55, so we couldn't be more happy.
Talk a little bit about the prospect, or not the prospect, but the process of calling in for a reservation. I mean, obviously, if someone wants to golf this weekend, you're going to have to call in advance because of how busy you guys are, and you're accepting reservations all during the week, especially for the weekend. Give everyone an idea of how easy it is to book a reservation at Mill Creek.
Yeah, very, very simple. We have the traditional way that you can do that by calling 740-7112. That's getting right into the pro shop here. We can book over the phone. We do have a new feature this year. You can book online. If you go to the website, millcreekmetroparks.org, click on the golf page, you'll see an icon that says book tee time here. It allows you to go in, create a user account, and it allows you to book and see what's available from a tee time standpoint. On any given day of the week, you can book up until about 2 weeks out, but it's an opportunity to be able to pull that up on your phone if you're with your buddies and it's beyond the business hours here at the pro shop. You can book at midnight if you want to. If you're having a couple people over for a bonfire or something and decide you want to go golfing the next day, it's an opportunity to see what we have available here. But it's a great way to be getting ready for the game of golf to book online at the spur of the moment and within a minute's time. So it's very easy. Just go to the website or give us a call here at the Mill Creek Golf Shop.
You know, when you say book online, it just sparks an idea in my head. I don't know if you guys have this kind of mulling around, and maybe it'll be in the future, but a Mill Creek app would be very cool for people to go and just, you know, download an app and you know, be able to book through their account that's already logged in on their app. Do you think that would be something we might see in the near or distant future for Mill Creek Parks?
It's something that we've certainly talked about. The way that our website is set up and designed, it's almost very similar to an app. I mean, you can just click the link and it takes you through all the steps, similar to how it would look on an app. So we definitely have talked about that, but it's the modern way of booking, and plus it gives, you know, everybody the opportunity of seeing what's available. If you've got 8 or 10 guys, you know, what, you know, geographic location on the tee sheet do you fall in from a time frame perspective to be able to accommodate 12 guys, 20 guys, a twosome, a foursome here and there. So it's a nice way, and it's to get modernized here, as we like to say, but it's an opportunity to see what's available as well.
Something I've always wanted to know, obviously in the wintertime, the destination for golfers would be to go down south, whether it be Myrtle Beach, whether it be Georgia, Savannah, Georgia, all the way down into Florida to golf. In the summertime, it's brutally hot down there. Do you guys, and the whole area of the Mahoning Valley, being that there's so many really nice courses in the Mahoning Valley, do you find that you get an awful lot of people that are coming up from the south to make it a weekend and use your facilities to get their golf fix in for a weekend? And do you guys have packages for those that are in the south that want to get away from the oppressive heat and come up to the north and do their golfing?
We do. We do get a lot of people from all over the continental United States. We track it by how we book through our tee time reservation system. In addition to that, we do a number of shows during the off season. A lot of people ask, you know, what do you guys do in January and February and, you know, March before the season really kicks off, because we keep the pro shop open up until Christmas Eve, and then we close down, you know, reboot, clean the pro shop up, get the carpets scrubbed, and so on. But during the off season, we attend the PGA Merchandise Show in January, which basically we go down there and do all our buying for the pro shop. Part of the end of January is going to golf shows. We do a golf show in Cleveland, in Pittsburgh, Michigan. We'll do New York, Rochester area this year. And we've also gone out of the country in February to do the Toronto golf show, which is the largest in the world. Michigan is the largest in the United States. So we book a ton of people through that like to come here, as opposed to going to Myrtle Beach or to Hilton Head, Greenbrier, anything that's close to being here. They find that it's relatively inexpensive to play here and get a good rate for multiple nights stay. And we deal with about 8 or 9 hotels in the area, which we represent when we go to these events in conjunction with the Youngstown Tourism Board. So we've done numerous ways of trying to recruit, just like this weekend. You know, we have a number of people coming from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and Buffalo, New York, that are going to come down and play for the weekend. So, I mean, it's going to be a nice weekend to get people in. And what we found is once they've come down here and played, and there's a number of golf courses in the area, they basically like to play a different place each day, is they continually start to come back year in and year out. So, you know, a lot of the folks and a lot of the golf courses in this area have done a really nice job of inviting them to this area and giving them the opportunity to play at a very inexpensive rate and basically giving them some great service, so it's welcoming to come back year in and year out.
And you talk about a shot in the arm economically, and I've said this for years. Having lived in the area most of my life, I left the area to pursue my dream of being a major league broadcaster, and I left the area for about a dozen years or so. I have always said this area is a crown jewel that hardly anyone recognizes because of the bad reputation that Youngstown has been given nationwide. And if people were to actually come into the Mahoning Valley, golfing wise, were incredible. The cost of living in this area is insanely cheap. You can get a nice home and pay bottom dirt prices in terms of the cost of living. The schools in the Youngstown area are incredible, and not to mention the fact we have the best pizza in the United States. Put all of that together, it's amazing to me, Brian, that more people haven't come in and recognized how truly great the Mahoning Valley truly is.
It is, and we're slowly getting there. I mean, it's taken a while to recognize that from afar, but I mean, the potential of having this being a golf hub that you can jump in the car and under 4 hours get here. I mean, Toronto's, you're looking at 4 hours. You're looking at 3 hours or under, depending upon what part of Michigan you're coming from. I mean, it's a quick jump in the car. You can come down and play the same day, spend a night or two. We found a lot of couples will come down in the early spring and the fall. They'll play the first day, and then the wives will go shopping. So they're spending some time and money in your community. Plus, they're dining out every single night, and then golfing and have that short drive home. So I think things like that, hosting events that have national or regional significance to it. The AJGA tournament that we host here, normally in June. This year, obviously with the COVID, got pushed to September. That's about $500,000 economic impact for the week that they're here. So having events like that, where you're basically booking 2 or 3 hotels with the entire field and a 100-player qualifier and a 140 or 50-player field, their parents, grandparents, spectators. When we hosted our first 2, we had a kid that was being recruited by every team in the Big Ten. So we had every coach in the Big Ten here that week. We had people from UCLA here, Texas, Oklahoma State. So, I mean, the amount of people that come in just for events such like the AJGA and the National Junior Optimists and the U.S. Kids stuff that we host is huge for the Mahoning Valley, plus everybody else that comes in that are staying on these golf packages. And I think Trumbull County, Mahoning County, and Columbiana counties all do a really good job of making this area welcoming, because it is. There's such great food here. There's such great history here. Every once in a while when you're at one of these, you'll get jabbed by, you guys used to have mills and stuff here. But, I mean, for every one of those stories, there's 10 other ones of, hey, I was down there and it's awesome. Hey, we're going to catch a YSU game while we're down here next time, or a hockey game next time we're here. We're coming in the same week we're having a concert downtown. You find a lot of that. We had one group up in Michigan that followed Boom Boom Mancini to every fight he ever fought his entire career. And that's all they talked about. You get to see him and how nice it was to follow him throughout the course of his career. So there's a lot of great history here. There's a lot of great stories here. And it's our opportunity and it's our job to make sure that gets shared and we bring those people to the Mahoning Valley to experience everything here. I tell everybody, for what the fees are at our golf course, they're very minute compared to if this facility was in Rochester, New York. It'd be $75 to $100 for 18 holes around. If this was in New York City, you're looking at $1.50. The way that the caliber of our facility is right now at the present day. So I mean, to be able to tee it up here for, if you're a senior, for 9 holes, walking for $8. I mean, it's a true gem to the Mahoning Valley. There's no doubt about it.
Brian Tolnar runs the Mill Creek Golf Course, and again, 36 holes. You've got the North Course, you got the South Course, you got a nice little par 3 9-hole course, you got the golf ranges, you got everything under the sun. If you want a new set of golf clubs and apparel, you got the pro shop. If you want something to eat at the turn of the 18 holes, or if you want to wait until after the 18 holes of golf is done, they got food for you. I mean, it's your one-shop stop if you're a golfer, and that's why we love Mill Creek and we love having Brian Tolnar on. It's not for your predictions, because you and I didn't do a very good job last week. I'm just saying. Justin Rose, God bless him, he had a terrible first couple of days, and safe to say I'm not going to be picking him. I find it more than just ironic that Bryson DeChambeau has been paired up with Tiger Woods the first 2 rounds. Call me a conspiracy theorist, if you will. I believe the PGA had a lot to do with that, because I think that the PGA recognizes Bryson DeChambeau has the opportunity, maybe not on the grand scale, to be someone close to Tiger Woods, and I don't think this was by accident.
No, there's no doubt. And if I'm either of those two guys, it's a very comfortable pairing for them. You know, they played some Ryder Cup matches together, President's Cup matches together. They both play Bridgestone golf balls, so they shoot commercials together quite often. So there's no doubt that that's a very comfortable pairing for both of them. And it's, you know, it comes down to, you know, if they're not having spectators down there, which they're not, the PGA Tour said that they're not going to have it for the rest of the year. They just sort of stamped that across the board. What a better way to really give a shot in the arm to your television ratings and your preferred pairings. If you look through the pairing sheet, there's probably 4 or 5 pairings that are as strong as that going out in the morning and going out in the afternoon. So whatever time you're joining the telecast, you're going to see some power threesomes as these groups go out there. So, I mean, it's exciting, and there's no doubt that that was done on purpose, and more so really for TV ratings.
When you talk about no fans, Tiger has always been known for how he feeds off the energy of the crowd, and he's also been known for giving other golfers anxiety off of what his crowd is doing behind them. So how do you expect Tiger to kind of handle the no fans and not having that energy to kind of build off of?
Well, I think the last couple of years for Tiger Woods, he's gotten more to the point where he knows he's late in his career. He's sort of turning into that elder statesman. Him and Phil are both in that, where they're at the latter half. They've gone through about 80% of where they're going to do most of their winning. You know, they'll catch a win here in the back half of the year. So he's gotten more relaxed from that aspect, where in the past he's really fed off the crowd and the excitement of what was going on, making a timely birdie or getting it up and down for par, making that 10-footer when he needed to. So I think that, you know, obviously with some of the stuff that they've done off the course and some of these matches that they have with the Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, you know, really makes them tend to be a little bit more relaxed. TV, they'll be amped up for television. There's no doubt about it. So that's going to be different for them. But I mean, they know what's at stake, you know, week in and week out. And I think, you know, Tiger not having played up to this point and going to a facility where he's won 5 times, he's won 11 times in the state of Ohio. He's very familiar with it. So I mean, there's not really going to be any hangover from not playing. He may have a round where you have a couple hiccups here and there, and it'll probably be the first one, but I expect him to fire on all cylinders come week's end, with or without the crowd. But, I mean, he knows he's on television. He's going to excite the people at home by watching him. And he does a lot by certainly bringing people into the game. And I think that there's no more important time than now to be the focus of the sports world when everything else is sort of off to the side or getting canceled or getting slowed down. So I think that he knows he still carries the torch in that aspect. You know, are his good playing days behind him? Most of it is, but I mean, you know, he obviously won the Masters last year and definitely went on the same stage as the younger guys. I don't think he's as scary as he was back in his heyday, because these kids watched him play, and now that they're out there, they're playing with them, and having a couple questionable years over the past 3 or 4 years, you know, has made him more human than superhuman. So I think that they're more apt to be, he's just another player in the field, where before he was creeping up the leaderboard, you knew he was there and everybody else started falling apart a little bit. I don't know that he has that aura to him like he used to, but he certainly moves the needle in the game of golf, and there's no doubting that.
Brian Tilton, our guest. All right, Brian, let's unveil your Power 5 rankings for the upcoming Memorial Tournament, the second consecutive tournament to be held at Muirfield on the PGA Tour this summer.
Power 5 this week is starting with Justin Thomas, our runner-up in a playoff last week. You know, we talked a little bit last week because he was in our Power 5, I think at the second or third spot, getting the fourth round to come together. Up until this point, he's played three of his 4 rounds. Very good, and he's had one questionable round. I think if you look at his week as a whole, 68, 66, 66, 69. On the weekend, 66 and 69 is pretty darn strong. She's 19 under, which is where we thought our leaders were going to be at the end of the week, 19, 20 under, somewhere in there. So they hit the numbers that we were looking for, and I think his putting has come around. He's finally making some putts when he needs to. Obviously he had a little trouble coming in at the end of the event, but all in all, gave himself a pretty good position to win and come up a little bit short. So I think he has to be your number one spot. Hideki Matsuyama, he shoots 67, 68 Thursday and Friday. Played the weekend, one over par. I think that sort of tripped him up a little bit. Traditionally, he's always played well there. I think he'll bounce back this week. Rory McIlroy is another one of those guys. Drives it so well. If he can get the putter going, he has every tool that you need necessary to win down there by hitting his iron shots extremely high. He can stop it very quickly. If he starts hitting a bunch of fairways, he's going to give himself some opportunities to hit those iron shots into the greens, put himself into position. Victor Hovland, solid third place, solo finish. Played great up until his 71 on Sunday, just shoots 1 under. I look for him to break through at some point. He's played great the last 6 or 8 events, and he was our 5th guy last week. He moves up 1 notch to 4. At number 5, Tiger Woods. What can you say? 5-time champion, 11 times in the state of Ohio. He drilled it well at the latter part of last year, and it's one of the reasons why he won the Masters. I think if he continues to drive it well, the fairways are very generous. They're bowl-shaped, and they're very wide. I think if he keeps it in the fairway, he'll give himself plenty of opportunities. He's one of the best iron players back in the day, and I think he'll be certainly in that mix over the weekend. Couple sleepers this week. Kevin Streelman shoots 64 last Thursday, had a so-so weekend at 1 under. He's one of those guys that we saw a couple weeks ago that can really turn into a birdie machine when he needs it. Patrick Cantley shoots 65. He's our defending champion this week. I think he'll be in the mix. Xander Schauffele, obviously 73 on Thursday, but ended up with a solid week. I think those are 3 guys that could pop in there as well.
All right, I've been off for a week, so I'm making a pick this week after being off. I'm going with Jon Rahm. What do you think about him? And then I also have a sleeper that I wasn't confident enough to pick him outright to win, but I think he's going to have a good weekend. What do you think about Jason Day as a sleeper?
Well, I think I've got a handful of guys here. Jason Day, Jon Rahm, Charlie Hoffman, Gary Woodland, Ricky Fowler, and Bryson DeChambeau would be my next handful of players. And all of those guys can play it well. Jason Day is a member down at Muirfield. Shot 67 on Sunday. If you get rid of his, I think, 2 rounds in the 70s, I think he shot like 71, 70 on Friday and Saturday. If you take those 2 out of the equation, he's just a couple back. He's definitely familiar with the course, knows what needs to be done. The only issues with his golf swing right now is he's come off some injuries with his back and his vertebrae. And if he's good to go, he's going to be right up there. So he's definitely a great pick.
Okay, I went off the board a little bit here, and I have Dustin Johnson.
Dustin Johnson, if he drives it well. He's been struggling with the left shot from a tee shot perspective, but his iron shots fit the bill for what's needed to win at Memorial. If he can hit the greens, bring it in there high, like we know he can, and that's one of the reasons why he won a U.S. Open, to hold firm and fast greens, which you're going to see this week. You're going to see green speeds pick up dramatically over last week. However, the rough is going to get deeper because they stopped cutting it last week, knowing that they wanted the scores this week between that 12 and 15 under number. So I think it's going to play a little bit tougher out of the rough. It's going to put more of a premium on driving. So if Dustin keeps it in the fairway, he'll definitely give himself some opportunities. And if he putts it well, he's as good as anybody.
Okay, our tip of the week is going to go hand in hand with our weekly conversation involving our local golfer, and that would be Jason Kokrak, Warren JFK graduate. It has not been a good stretch of golf for Jason. He has missed the cut 3 consecutive outings. He is going to be golfing in the Memorial. He's scheduled to be shooting on the back 9 first on Thursday afternoon at 12:22. Brian, I guess first and foremost, do you expect Jason Kokrak to get the bugaboo out of his system and play golf this weekend? And more importantly, if you're in Jason's shoes where you've been struggling the last few weeks, what goes through the mind of a player that has been struggling, and how do you try to get the mindset of getting out of that streak of missing cuts?
Well, for him, I mean, if you can take anything out of last week, obviously he had the hole-in-one there on 16, which was a highlight. But again, missed another cut, third in a row. Anytime that you're struggling, it's certainly in your head. There's no doubt about it. You've got to compartmentalize that, and you've got to basically say that week's over. I'm looking from this point on. And I look at it as a situation of when you get out there, you're looking at it by hole. What is the best score that I can make on a hole from tee to green, for example? If I hit it in the rough on the left-hand side and I've got no opportunity to get it on the green, where can I position my second shot to give myself the best opportunity to make par? Because we've already taken birdie off the equation. But I want to be able to make par, bogey at worst. So you really have to position yourself well, stay away from those big numbers. He's certainly, if he's driving the ball well, no different than talking about Dustin Johnson and how well he's playing the ball when he's not hitting the ball down the left-hand side when he has that miss. So if he can relinquish seeing some bad shots here or there, make a couple birdies when you need to make them. Last week we talked about him finishing in the top 25 and then really giving it a run this week because it's a golf course that should suit his game based on how he hits it. He hits it high and long off the tee. He hits iron shots very high in the greens. If he putts it well, he'll be there at the end of the week. But like I said, the last 3 weeks he's struggled mightily. So you really have to forget what's behind you and only check in and look about what's going to be ahead of you. And how can I play each hole, basically 18 different checkpoints of how can I play this hole the best that I can, even if I hit a bad shot or two. Make that 10-footer for par, make a 5-footer for bogey to eliminate some of the damage. And I think if he does that, he'll do well. He's certainly talented enough to win on the PGA Tour, but I think he needs to make a cut here in the next week or two. There's no doubt about it after coming off a sluggish start and not playing 1 week. But it's definitely one of those things that's in your head.
Coming from a baseball background, this is the golf equivalent of a guy in a slump and he wants to hit a bases-empty grand slam. I mean, you just can't do that. You have to have small steps. And I like what you're saying. If a guy takes his tee shot and he puts it into the rough and you're 180 yards away from the stick, obviously the birdie's out of the question, so you play for a par. Guys that are struggling, they don't have that mentality because they're already wanting to, for lack of a better term, overcompensate for the mistakes of the past. And it's a horrible rut when you get into it because you find yourself screwing yourself deeper and deeper into the ground. And I go back with a phrase that was made years and years and years ago by someone far more intelligent than me when he said, and it's a worldwide phrase, Rome wasn't built in a day. And I think that people that are in a slump, whatever sport you have, or in life in general, you got to have baby steps in order to get back to the place where you want to be, and then start concentrating on getting yourself to where it is you believe you should be. But getting out of the hole, you can't take one step and get out of the hole. It's got to be a process because, as the saying goes, Rome wasn't built in a day.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, that could be as easy as you're standing on the tee. I want to make sure I hit the fairway. Or if I'm in the fairway, I want to make sure I hit the green, put it on the right spot of the green, as opposed to I'm going to try to fire at this pin. And that's where the big mistakes are maximized. You hit a tee shot right or left, you're in some deep rough, you have 180 yards, you got a lot of trees in front of you. Don't take the hero's approach where you're going to try to hit it under one, over one, because 9 times out of 10, what's going to happen is you're going to catch a branch. Now you're 20 yards in front of you, and you wasted the shot, and you still basically have that shot. So that point is, if you hit it in those bad spots, you want to punch it out, put it in the proper spot to where you feel comfortable, where you can give yourself an opportunity to putt for par, as opposed to hitting your birdie shot from 20 yards ahead of you. And I think that for the average golfer and the elite professional golfer, I think that's paramount. Trying to make the damage as least amount of possible to your scorecard at the end of the day. I had an opportunity to make an 8, but I turned that into a 6, or I, was going to make a double on this hole, and I ended up making a bogey because I gave myself a clear shot from 100 yards out as opposed to having to hit that same punch-out shot where you hit the tree and it may have ricocheted or come back at you. And that's the biggest difference. Those guys on tour, they don't miss very many fairways to begin with, but when they do, they pick their poison and where they want to go for stuff and where they want to punch out and give themselves the opportunity. It may be a green that's severe from back to front, knowing that you're not going to put a spin on the ball that's going to stop it underneath the hole, and it may chase on through the green where you've got more trouble by hitting a chip shot downhill that you don't know it's going to stop. So those guys are very good at it because they live it day in and day out, and I think that that's where the amateur golfer play to where you're going to give yourself the best odds and the best opportunities to get the ball into the hole in the least amount of shots as possible.
When other athletes get into slumps, they fall into that trap of trying to do too much. Do you see a lot of golfers fall in that trap where they try to put a little bit more extra effort in their swing and they only end up hurting their swing mechanics?
Well, it is. If you're struggling and you've had, for Jason's example, if you had several weeks where you've missed the cut, you're certainly thinking about that in the back of your mind as much as you'd like to eliminate it. So you hit a bad tee shot on the hole, you're trapped behind, well, let's say, some branches where you've got a needle-thin margin for error. If you've been hitting the ball bad the last 3 or 4 weeks, probably not that advantageous to hit that miracle shot to feed it through where you need to go. And I think that also has to come into it. I mean, if you're not confident in your swing from tee to green to begin with, you're not going to hit the hero shot. You got to hit that hero shot so precise to begin with that if you're struggling with your game a little bit, you basically want to make sure that you leave that out of the whole frame of mind before you hit the shot.
Well, there's only so many people that can hit the Bagger Vance shot that Matt Damon hits toward the end of the movie.
Oh, absolutely. And if you look at the history of Tiger Woods, he pulled off more of those shots when he was having his best ball striking years on the PGA Tour. Now, he punches out a lot more in this part of his career. He still hit a shot or two, and Phil Mickelson will do the same. But they punch out a little bit more than they used to back in their heyday because you just don't know how the ball's going to react out of the grass if you're in the deep rough. How much is it going to come out high? Is it going to come out low? Is the grass damp? Is the grass firm? Will the ball shoot out or is it going to come out dead? So, I mean, there's so many variables that are involved, and those guys play for so much money that, one shot is the equivalent of, it could be about $120,000. So it's very important that they minimize the mistakes and make it where they can.
Brian Tolnar, our guest. Okay, this is where I look forward to your words of wisdom every single week. Brian, the floor is yours. What is this week's tips on the tour?
This week we're going to stay with golf psychology, and we're going to talk about visualization. So we want to be able to stand on the tee and visualize where you want the tee shot to go, or stand in the fairway, visualize where you want the shot to hit. Is it middle of the green, right, left of the green? Do you want the shot to run up? And basically put yourself in this perspective. In about 1998, 1999, I took a golf psychology course, and there was about 40 or 45 golf professionals in there. And my difference is golf professionals are guys that do what I do with facilities, private clubs, public resorts. And then the professional golfer is the guys that you see playing the Nationwide Tour, the PGA Tour. So there's a difference between golf professional and professional golfer. So they basically had a pool where you would fill out a sheet at the beginning of the class. They put up a slide of a hole. It was a hole, just to give you a visual, slight dog leg to the right. Had a little creek that came into play about 200 yards off the tee. The green was guarded by a pond up front left. There was a pot bunker to the right, a big bunker behind the green. You had some fairway bunkers, like 2 or 3 on the left-hand side, 2 or 3 on the right. Out of bounds down the left-hand side, and you had some heavy trees or big old trees down the right-hand side. And they asked each of the golf professionals, when you're looking at this hole as if you were playing it in tournament competition, what do you see? And of the 40 or 45 professionals that were in there, we all wrote down what we saw. We submitted it. and the guy read basically everybody's answer, and everybody's answer in that room of golf professionals basically said, well, I see that there's a fairway bunker down there to the left. It's 225. I want to make sure I stay away from that. Or there's a crick here that may come into play if I lay up. There's a pond there. Basically everything that we just went over, what I visualized from off of the tee. And he goes, the difference between the golf professional and the professional golfer is they're not looking at any of that. They're not looking at any of the trouble altogether. They're looking at fairway, and if they're in the fairway, they're looking at green. So when I'm in the fairway, I'm looking at the putt bunker on the right. Don't want to miss left because there's water over there. I could spin the ball back in. They're looking at for where they want to hit it. So I think how you visualize the hole is probably the most important. Going off of what we just talked about with the struggles of Jason Kokrak and, players that struggle, this is a great tie-in to that. You really want to focus in on small targets. So if I'm standing on that tee, I want to block out everything that's around me. I want to pick out a spot in that fairway where I want the ball to land, where I can visualize seeing that ball land and trying to identify what it's going to do. Is the fairway soft? Is it going to stick there if I fly it to a certain point? Or am I going to get, 50 yards of roll if it's, like it is outside today where the ground is very firm? Is it going to run out and go to this spot in the fairway bunker? I might want to aim a little bit to the right center of the fairway. So visualizing where you want to hit the ball is number one. And, if it's a golf course that you play week in and week out, I grew up on Pine Lakes, which used to be Hubbard Golf Course as a kid. So I had trees and stuff where if I hit a tee shot by it, I knew exactly what club to hit. So it was more of a matter of I took the club selection out of it, and I knew basically trying to visualize a spot where I'd want to land on the green. If it was a false front, I wanted to give the shot a little bit more carry because I wanted to make sure I stay on the green and not spun it off. So when you're looking at these targets, whether it be a tee shot or an iron shot, we want you to visualize on what I call small targets. So if I'm on the tee, and say it's a par 3 and I'm hitting a 7-iron, I want to pick out something between myself and where I want the ball to land. Am I going to go for the flag, or am I going to hit it towards the center of the green? So you want to pick out a point in between both of those because it's very easy to line up and aim at something 5 yards short of where your body and your setup is on the tee than it is trying to aim 200 yards on a par 3 or 175 yards down at a flag on a green. So it could be a divot, it could be a blade of grass in between where you're trying to hit it and the target where you're trying to hit it from the tee. So something close, a sprinkler head, a yardage marker, a yardage plate, a yardage marker in the fairway, a post, anything that you can think of, anything that you could see that's very close by because it's easy for us to aim up there. And I think if you do that, you're going to give yourself the best chance of hitting it where you want. And the last thing, before you hit the shot, your last visual has the strongest importance. So if you, at the last minute, are standing on a tee shot and you see a fairway bunker, 9 times out of 10, you're going to hit it in that fairway bunker. We want you to see that spot in the fairway with where you're trying to go. And that's where I think these small targets will give you a great visualization to see where you're trying to hit the ball down the fairway or close to a green. And the last thing, and we said this last week and the last couple of weeks, trust your swing like any other shot. Know that you're going to hit that shot. Visualize the last spot you're going to see the ball hit in the fairway. And, if it's coming down and hitting practice balls in the range or playing out in the golf course, pick the small target and visualize that shot going right where you want it to. See it land there before you hit the shot. And I think that that's one of those things that, us as golf professionals, obviously we're on this side of the business, and professional golfers, they do that way better than we do. Now, we have some great players, don't get me wrong, but they get themselves out of trouble a heck of a lot easier than we do at this level. And they visualize the shots that they try to hit as good as anybody. It's just like any other sport. You're visualizing what's going to happen before it happens. And if it's a positive shot, you're going to hit it there. If you're trying to hit it over some water and you're looking at the lake last, you're probably going to hit it in the lake. So make sure that you pick a small target, visualize where you want to go, and have confidence, and your last visual is going to be the spot where you hit it.
Brian, that's some really, really great advice for any golfer at any stage of his or her game. But I want to ask on a specific question if a golfer, and I'm going to use me as an example because I normally hit a ball and it will sail to the right for whatever reason. I'm slicing instead of instead of pointing straight toward the target. I aim a little bit to the left, knowing that I hit the ball to the right. For a player who slices the ball or a player that yanks the ball to the left, what are some of the things that they can do to pile on to visualizing the shot? What are some of the things that they can do to make sure the ball is going to be hit straight instead of to the left or to the right?
Well, you can do this. This is a quick Band-Aid, obviously. And if you are a right-handed golfer and you slice the ball, if you are hitting that shot and that's your shot pattern, left to right or right to left, you're going to aim a little bit right or left of wherever your target line is. However, I will tell you this from a mechanical standpoint, the more that you aim left, say if you're a right-handed golfer and you're aiming left to play that slice, the more you're opening your body and the more you're going to add to it. So I talk a lot about golf as a game of opposites. So what we would want to do is we want to make sure we're either square to the target or we're actually close to the target. Because the more close that we hit, the more that we can get that club face closed a lot quicker. So it's a little bit deeper than that from a swing perspective, but the more that you go left with your feet, the more that ball is going to have a lot of side spin coming off the club, and it's going to go right. It's probably going to go a little bit higher, and it's going to go a little bit further right on you.
All right, fair enough. Appreciate the advice, the weekly advice given to us by the guy who runs Mill Creek for the Mill Creek Parks, and Brian Tilnar, our guest every week, and he's the golf pro there. And this is a phenomenal teaching moment. And as I've said on a weekly basis, all of these lessons that and these tips that you're giving are going to be used on the golf course, and I'll be really curious at the end of the summer to see how well the game starts rounding into form. Hopefully it does, but this, I'll be honest, this advice might be the best one that you've given, because the psychology of golf, if you're golfing on a daily basis or once a week or anything in between, this is the meat and potatoes of what makes a golfer really, really special. If you can visualize your shot, chances are you're going to be a much better golfer.
Oh, there's definitely no doubt about it. I'm just shocked, having sat through that class out of 40 or 45 golf professionals, not one of them had anything positive in their mind before they would hit that shot looking at that hole. They brought every bad thing that would come into play. I got an OB left. I have a pot bunker right of the green. I got a lake up here. I've got a creek over here. I've got tall trees. We want to avoid those. We've got 2 fairway bunkers here. Everybody put everything bad that you could imagine, and not one person said, all I see is the fairway, and all I see is the green as I'm standing in the fairway hitting my second shot. And that's a group of golf professionals that play at a pretty high level, not as high as the professional golfers do, but it was shocking to me that this guy obviously teaches this class a number of times all over the United States, and he goes, I've got nobody in the entire time that I've been teaching this that would come up and see, what are you looking for as a player to play this hole? What are you trying to do, or where are you trying to hit it, or what do you see? And not one person said, I'm looking at this spot in the fairway, and I'm looking at this spot from fairway to green. They brought all the trouble into play. So your mind psychologically thinks about the trouble more than it does of seeing that perfect shot. So that's why visualization is just so important.
Brian, always a pleasure. We look forward to catching up with you next week, and hopefully Justin Thomas makes the cut this week.
Hey, that's what we're hoping for. Have a great week. It's weather-wise, it's perfect. So hopefully we'll see everybody this week at Mill Creek.
You got it. Always a pleasure, sir. We'll talk next Wednesday.
You got it. Thanks, Anthony. Thanks, Ron.
You got it. Brian Tolnar, he is our golfing expert. And I'll tell you what, the course that he runs, Mill Creek, I love that golf course. It is just 36 holes, and every hole has its own challenge. And you got to visualize an awful lot because the fairways are pretty narrow. So this is something that I have not done, and that might be a reason why my golf game sucks.
And that psychology test that he talked about, I'll tell you, if someone described that hole to me and told me, well, what do you see? I'd just write one word: danger. Danger, Will Robinson. Because, man, the hole he described, that's like death on a golf course right there.
You're just basically wanting to take your golf bag and everything and just throw it in the lake and say, "Okay, we're done." That's all. But and forget about golf for a second. It's human nature for all of us to expect the worst or to see the worst coming into your life.
Yep.
So it's the visualization as part of the game of golf. It's part of everything. I mean, if you think about it, Major League Baseball is the same thing. The guy is stepping up to the plate. Not only is he looking to see coming out of the pitcher's hand what kind of a pitch it is, whether it's a fastball, breaking ball, changeup, whatever, and then you have to visualize, okay, where do I want to put the baseball? Because guys that are really good and in the major leagues can do that anytime they want to, much like pitchers can hit a target from 60 feet 6 inches and hit the target without a problem. That's why they're in the big leagues and they're not flailing away in the minor leagues or no longer in baseball.
By the way, they have to do everything you just said within maybe a half a second.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. Yeah, the mind is an incredible thing.
Anytime you really break down what a baseball hitter has to do, I just go, how do so many people do this so easily? Because it's insane. It's a 95, 98 mile an hour fastball. You have to see it out of their hand, pick up the curve on it, and then know when to swing, where to swing, and where you're going to put it like that. It's got to be 90% muscle memory.
Tony Gwynn, when I had a conversation with him prior to the 96 All-Star game in Philadelphia, he had a 20-minute dissertation on hitting, which was just unbelievably phenomenal. And he swears that he could see the spin of the curveball when it's coming out of the pitcher's hand. And you ask other guys that are in the major leagues, and they're like, there's no way anyone can see the spin of a curveball. Tony Gwynn swore up and down that he could see the rotation out of the guy's hand, which might be the big reason why Tony Gwynn was such a great off-speed hitter, because for whatever reason he was fortunate enough to have that rare talent.
One of the pitches makes like a little red dot with the stitches, right?
Yeah,
supposedly.
exactly.
This is to see that in a.
He talked about that too.
Right.
He could see the spin, and then he could see the red dot, and if you saw the red dot, you knew that a breaking ball was coming.
Right. It's ridiculous.
I shake my head at those people, because you're just like, okay, how are you seeing that in that short a time? But
on top of all that, you're hitting a round ball with a round bat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're not hitting something with a square bat, which would be a whole lot easier.
You're not playing cricket.
Yeah, you're hitting a round ball with a round bat, and the great prolific power hitters have to hit it in a certain spot on the bat. Otherwise, they're not going to get a home run.
Within inches.
Absolutely. Within inches either direction of the sweet spot of the bat in order to get a home run. And that's where, with all due respect to the people that sit back and say, well, bat speed. Okay, bat speed's important. No two ways about that. Important. But if you're not hitting the sweet spot of the bat, it's irrelevant.
Well, yeah, I mean, if your bat speed's high and you're hitting the bottom of the bat, you're cracking a lot of bats.
You're cracking a lot of bats, exactly. You have to have one, that there's a yin and a yang, and the hitting the ball on the sweet spot. If you want to be a power hitter, you got to consistently hit the ball on the sweet spot of the bat with a lot of torque and velocity, and by hitting the ball, you provide backspin, which in actuality makes the ball go a little higher and a little further. If you put backspin on the ball. So I'm amazed that the golfing aspect of it is almost as impressive, where you don't even look at the lake, the ocean, the alligators underneath a moat, or the rough, or the bunkers, or everything else. Now you're just looking at one particular area in the fairway, off the tee, and you're like, yeah, I want to hit that spot right there.
It's the difference between if you go to Sawgrass, people either see the water or they see the green island.
Yeah.
Which one do you see?
Exactly.
It's going to define why you're
and it's hard not to see the water,
right?
Because the
There's
water
a
is
lot
all
of it.
around this area. But here are some of these guys who are like, I don't see the water. All I'm seeing is the part of the green that I want to hit the ball on.
Right.
And I'm like, how do you do that? That's just not in my DNA. Because now, when I go golfing again and I try this, it's going to be hard not to look at, oh, hey, there's a fairway bunker down here. There's a lot of trees over here. There's rough over here. It's hard to sit back and go, okay, 165, 170 yards down the fairway is that nice little divot right there. I want to put the ball off that divot and carry it 30, 35 yards and have a nice second shot at the green to go get myself a birdie. Who does that?
Professionals.
Exactly. That's crazy. Absolutely nuts. I'm going to try it, though. Obviously, I'm going to try it. John Rahm is your pick for this week.
John Rahm's my pick. Jason Daly is my sleeper. I wasn't confident enough in him to pick him, but I feel like he's going to have a really good weekend. I wouldn't be surprised if he won.
Okay, let me ask you. Jason Kokrak, does he make the cut this weekend?
I like what Brian said, the fact that you're playing there last week, you get to play there again this week. I think his chances are a lot higher than they would have been if they went to a completely new golf course. So
he finished 8 over.
Yeah.
For the 2 holes, for the 2 rounds, and as Brian said, the rough has not been cut in quite some time. If Jason falls into bad habits again, oh man, you can see some astronomical scores.
It'll roll down the hill real quick if he puts that rock. But he's too good of a golfer to stay in that hole for long. So I think either this week or next week he'll be okay. He'll get out of this little slump he's in.
So that rock that comes down the hill, are you saying that Jason Kokrak is the golf version of Sisyphus right now?
Yes. And he's going to have to go back and carry it all the way back up.
All right. Well, hopefully, unlike Sisyphus, he actually gets that boulder away from on top of the hill and over the hill.
That's right. Here at Running Point, we bring in Greek mythology.
Indeed. We're smart people that way. Speaking of smart people, Derek Shelton is the manager of the Pittsburgh Pirates. He of the contraption that helps your baseball game. Back in the day, he was the pitch man for the swing, where if you swung the ball or swung this stick the wrong way, the ball would automatically hit the top. Where you would have an open swing or whatever. Yeah, I'm gonna when I cover the Pirates this year and knock on wood I'm able to. I'm gonna ask him if he has any more of the product that because you got to believe he's got about a million stuff of this.
Are you trying to say they didn't sell well and he's got a bunch left in stock?
No, I'm saying that I'd like to have that because I'd like to give it to a few people that might need it when they play baseball in the spring. I want to be someone that wants to give some kids some old school stuff that works.
Yeah.
But Derek Shelton is the new manager of the Pittsburgh Pirates, and if you're Derek Shelton, you look forward to being a major league manager. But then you look at the Pirates and you see, okay, I don't have Chris Archer, who's one of your top starters, even though he hasn't performed like one, but he has the ability to be a top starter. You don't have Jamison Tyone, who was your top starter. So these two guys are out for the whole year. And in Tyone's case, he might be out all of next year as well. Who knows? You have a very limited rotation. You do have some nice bats. Reynolds, Bell, a couple of other kids that I think could very well be solid hitters in Major League Baseball, but your pitching staff, specifically your starting rotation, a little scary.
They're young and unproven, but that could go either way. There are some pitchers in the Pirates organization that could come on and have a really good year, and then it's 60 games, and that's all you need. I mean, the Pirates are playing with house money because no one expects them to do anything, and there's 60 games, and if you're hot for 40 of those games, you can get into the playoffs. I mean, it's the perfect time to be a Pirates fan or to be a Pirates manager.
Well, the Pirates and the Indians are going to be playing each other for 3 games. The Bucks and the Indians will be playing on Saturday, Monday, and Wednesday. This Saturday, a 7:05 start at PNC. Monday will be at Progressive Field at 7:05. And then on Wednesday, these two teams will conclude their little brief 3-game exhibition summer camp thing as they'll play at PNC on Wednesday at 7:05, and then the Pirates will open up the 2020 season in St. Louis on Friday night. And
what a way to open the season. You got to go play St. Louis.
Well, we talked about this, and then we're going to get John Parato's opinion on this because John will be joining us at the top of the hour. We talked with Mandy Bell on Monday to get her perspective on the Indians, and we love having Mandy on because she has a great perspective and knows her Indians stuff, and she's a tremendous writer. We have another tremendous writer coming up in 5 minutes in John Parato. I happen to think he is one of or the best Major League Baseball writer in journalism today. I think John is that good. And he has been around Pirates baseball his entire life, and he's covered the Pirates for the better part of his life. And I'm going to ask him, and I'll ask you before we have John on. We talked about this before the show. I don't necessarily think we're going to have the best team win the 2020 World Series because it's only a 60-game schedule, and because of that, a team like the Pirates can't be discounted because you can be hot for a 60-game stretch.
Here's the thing. I think you're on to something in saying that not all the best teams are going to make the playoffs. But I think once the playoff starts, the best teams in the playoffs are going to go to the World Series. Because when it's playoff baseball, it's going to be all normal playoff baseball. It's going to come down to everything that normal playoff baseball does. I don't see a team that just because they get hot and get into the playoffs like the Pirates beating a juggernaut in a playoff series. Especially if it's a normal playoff series where you go, 4 games home, 3 games away or whatever, the home field advantage. I think once you get in the playoffs, whoever the best 2 teams are in the playoffs are probably going to meet in the World Series.
I can live with that because you can't fake the postseason.
No.
It's not like you're going to have best of 3 in the postseason. A 60-game season is the equivalent of a best of 3 postseason where you are not going to have the best team move forward all the time.
But you won't always.
Not always. In a 60-game season, anybody can win the division. I will tell you right now, in the American League East, I like Tampa Bay's chances far more than I like the New York Yankees' chances because it's a 60-game season.
I wouldn't say far more, Ron. I mean, they have chances. They have more chances than they would in the regular season. But to say that they're like the undisputed favorites of the AL East,
I wouldn't say that. But if I had money, I'd put all my money on Tampa Bay to win the East.
Tampa Bay is your favorite.
I think Tampa Bay wins the East this year.
All right,
I do.
mean, I think it's a good pick, but I wouldn't say they're my favorite. Like they're not like. I wouldn't say right now, the Rays are the favorite to win the AL East right now. I wouldn't take that away from the Yankees.
Okay.
So
all right.
I wouldn't be surprised if they did it because I get your points, but I would not say the Rays are the favorites to win the AL East.
I'll tell you who's going to be a pain in the ass in the AL Central, and I can see them even winning this. Yep, I can even see them winning that division because they have that young group of talent that is just arrogant enough to perform over 60 games.
And unlike the Royals and Tigers, who have just young talent as well, they have it on both sides.
Oh, yeah.
The Royals have young and impressive hitting, not so much pitching. Tigers have young and impressive pitching.
Not so much hitting.
So, but the White Sox
have a little bit of both, and they're going to be scary. All right, we're going to talk with John Parato about the Pirates and around Major League Baseball. Stick around. This should be fun.
Baird Brothers remains your source for fine hardwood products. For the time being, we're open for customer pickup only on weekdays, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., and Saturday from 9 a.m. till noon. Place your order online at BairdBrothers.com. Baird Brothers, for the place you love.
Quality, customer service, and integrity.
Those are the 4 words that have driven our success since 1957 at Joe Dickey Electric.
Joe Dickey Electric is one Mahoning Valley landmark business that stays current with the requirements of our customers. Family owned and managed, we are an electrical contractor and energy solutions provider. Every member of our team adds to his or her skill set through ongoing training. Residential, commercial, industrial, automotive, and more. We keep ahead of the needs of our customers with a fleet of more than 50 vehicles and 24/7 emergency service, so you're never left in the dark.
The 4M Company, being an architect and construction manager for over 40 years, has had the opportunity to use many different electrical businesses for our projects. The depth, quality, and knowledge and attention to detail displayed by Dickey Electric makes them stand out above all the rest.
For state-of-the-art expertise and a timeless commitment to our customers, contact Joe Dickey Electric. We are everything electrical.
Friday night, it's fresh limousine. I'm feeling pretty good about myself, like I'm living the dream. Platform shoes, straight down the street. It's gonna get hot in here, I hope you can handle the heat.
Over the years, you watched us grow, and as we've grown, so has the Myers Family Insurance team.
Thanks to all of you who have trusted our families to help you with your Medicare needs.
Myers Family Insurance looks forward to helping you now for years to come, so call our family today and remind them how cute we are.
Myers Family Insurance continues to be the area's resource for all your Medicare and retirement needs. Call today, 330-286-3044.
Welcome back to a Wednesday edition of Running Point on YSNLive.com. We had an opportunity on Monday to talk Indians baseball with Mandy Bell. Now it's time to cover the Pirates, and what better person to talk about the Pirates than a guy that I think knows everything there is to know about Pirates baseball, and he's one of the best in the business. He is John Parado, and he joins us on the YSN hotline. John, how are you, sir?
Doing good, Ron. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. And before we even get the interview started, a little over a month ago, John had open heart surgery. And to your credit, man, have you bounced back in a big, big way. It's like it's John Parado back in his 20s again.
Yeah. I feel very, very fortunate. I had quadruple bypass surgery, and fortunately the recovery's gone pretty much without a hitch, and pretty much back to normal. And it's been good. I've recovered a lot faster than I thought I would, and I'm very grateful for that.
John, let's talk a little bit about the Pirates. Obviously, Derek Shelton is going to have his hands full in a lot of ways. He comes in as a first-year skipper, and unfortunately, due to injuries, he will not have 2 of his top starters on the mound in Chris Archer and Jamison Tyone. So his starting rotation is a little bit limited, though he does have an impressive bullpen in some regards. Talk a little bit about the pitching and what the Pirates are hoping to get out of some of their young kids who are going to be having the task of being a starting pitcher in this 60-game season.
Well, the young pitcher they're most interested in seeing is Mitch Keller, who is considered one of the top pitching prospects in baseball the last few years. He made 11 or 12 starts last year for the Pirates. Was very shaky early on, looked like kind of the deer in the headlights type of deal, Ron. He really looked overmatched, but toward the end of the season, even though his numbers didn't show it, he did pitch better, and you could see why he was so well thought of in the minor leagues. So they're hoping that, now that he has some big league experience under his belt, that he'll settle down and turn out to be a pretty good pitcher. They have Joe Musgrove, who's been with them for a couple of years now, Trevor Williams in the same boat, and they both need to take steps up. I think there's no doubt. They've shown at times they can be quality major league pitchers, but they haven't been overly consistent, and they're both going to need to have to improve this year, especially, as you said, Tyone and Archer are going to miss the whole season. And they also have, they're looking to piggyback starters in one situation with Stephen Brault and Chad Kuhl, which is kind of an interesting concept. Like each would pitch 3 or 4 innings. Brault is left-hander. It's not a whole lot of. He's not a workhorse type guy, and he seems to tire out after about 4 innings. And Chad Kuhl, who throws very hard and showed some promise a few years back, is coming off Tommy John elbow surgery. And so they don't want to push the envelope and have him pitch a lot of innings as he's on his way back. So they're going to piggyback those 2 guys together, and it'll be interesting to see how that works out because, maybe, like between the 2 of them, they can give the Pirates an effective start or, I should say, outing every 5 days. So really the Pirates are going to go pretty much with guys who already have been there. They also have Derek Holland, who's a veteran left-hander. They signed to a minor league contract. He'll also probably be in the rotation. So they have some pitching prospects on the way that they don't feel are quite ready yet. So really Keller kind of holds the key as far as young pitchers.
John, it's an interesting concept you bring up with Kuhl being piggybacked, and I think it's an excellent move by the Pirates because, again, a guy coming off Tommy John surgery, you certainly don't want him throwing 6-7 innings at a time. So in this 60-game season, this might be a blessing in disguise to Chad Kuhl's career, depending on how the organization handles Chad Kuhl in 2020. And by all accounts, this might be the perfect scenario for Kuhl to be completely over Tommy John surgery by the time we reconvene in 2021.
Yeah, I think you're right, Ron. Certainly, it works him back into game situations. It gets him back, his feet back on the ground as far as his career goes. But again, you don't overtax him if you only pitch him 3 or 4 innings at a time. So I think it's a good move. It really is. It's a smart move because Brault is a 5-inning pitcher at most. So you limit his exposure as far as going around the lineup more than twice. Then you limit Kuhl from having to pitch too many innings. And if they both benefit from the shorter outings, and at least in theory they should, then really that's a pretty creative way to fill one of the rotation holes.
The pitching is kind of uncertain in Pittsburgh, but the lineup and the offense is not uncertain. They definitely have some bats in there that can really make some noise. What are the expectations for the Pirates' offense this year?
Well, they should be able to score some runs. They don't have a whole lot of power beyond Josh Bell and Gregory Polanco, their first baseman and the right fielder. But what they do have is they have, and it's something that's rare in today's game, they have a lot of guys that make consistent contact. They don't strike out a whole lot. They put the ball in play, and I think that's going to help. They do get runners on base. They have to do it more the old-fashioned way instead of just waiting for home runs. They have to manufacture runs sometimes. But I think their offense will be okay. I really do. I like Brian Reynolds, the left fielder, and the shortstop, Kevin Newman. They both finished in the top 10 in the National League in batting average last year. So, I mean, they look like they could be, potential foundation pieces for this team. You have Adam Frazier, the second baseman, who's a pretty good hitter. They need more from Colin Moran, the third baseman, though. He has power potential, but it just hasn't translated to the major league level, and I really think they need help there. And also Gerard Dyson, the veteran center fielder, on a 1-year contract. They could use. They don't have a lot of stolen base potential, and he is a guy who can steal bases. And if he can get on base and run a little, that should help their offense too.
John, I know that Colin Moran is getting pushed by a son of a former big leaguer. Talk a little bit about Ke'Bryan Hayes and what he may bring to the table on this 2020 Pirates team.
I'm not so sure we'll see him this year, Ron. He had a decent year with the bat in AAA. He only hit 10 home runs, though. He's a great defensive player. He's considered one of the best fielding third baseman in the entire minor leagues, just not in the Pirates organization, but all through baseball. But he apparently, there's something going on. He's yet to take part in camp, and Major League Baseball has put a gag order on explaining why certain guys, anything to do with COVID, they really can't talk about it. So apparently, he either has the coronavirus or he's been in contact with somebody who has and is quarantining. So I think because of that, he is so far behind. I don't think he'll be on the opening day roster. I think you may see him get a shot later in the year if the Pirates fall out of contention, but he's definitely the third baseman of the future. And it really hurts that they won't have a minor league season, as he really need to go back to AAA and show some more power and show some more consistency with the bat.
John, you talked a little bit about Gregory Polanco. The last couple of years have been injury-riddled, to say the least, but when Polanco is healthy, man, this kid can perform both on the field and at the plate. How healthy is he coming into the 2020 campaign?
Well, I saw him a little bit the day I was at their camp, and he looked good. What I was impressed with was his throwing. He had shoulder surgery late in the 2018 season. He was limited to about 40-some games. I forget the exact count last year, but he didn't play a whole lot coming back from that surgery. He had problems with the shoulder. But he's got one of the better arms in the National League as far as outfielders are concerned. And it looked like he had regained a lot of that arm strength watching him in fielding drills. And I know the Pirates have raved about, especially some of his teammates, how the balls really jumped off his bat in inter-squad games and scrimmages and things like that. How that translates to real games, you never know for sure. But certainly the news has been encouraging on him so far in this summer camp.
Some of the younger teams in the MLB have come out and kind of expressed interest in some unconventional ways to handle their pitching rotation this year. Do you think there are any opportunities for the Pirates to explore some of these unconventional kind of ways to handle their pitchers?
Well, I think they'll rely quite a bit on the bullpen early on, because I don't think you're going to see too many starting pitchers go 6 or 7 innings right out of the chute. Although I do, as I mentioned, the piggyback idea with Brault and Cole, that's one way they're going to handle the 5th starter spot. Other than that, I think it'll be fairly conventional unless they get another injury, because they don't have a lot of starting pitching depth now with 2 guys on the IL for the season. So it remains to be seen. I know Derek Shelton, managed the Minnesota, or the bench coach, I should say, in Minnesota the last 2 years. They used the opener from time to time, the Twins, and he is open to that. So I would imagine if they have any more starting pitching injuries, we'll probably see the opener, for a bullpen game where you have 6 or 7 guys, combined to throw an inning or 2 each. So I think, they're open to these ideas, and I think, another injury, they're going to have to go to them as plan B.
John Parado, our guest, he covers the Pirates, and he's a fantastic writer for Major League Baseball within the Pirates organization, as well as writing about Major League Baseball in general. Before we get outside of the Pirates, the conversation we had, knowing that you were coming on the show, a bunch of us were talking about what happens if Trevor Williams uncorks a dominant performance, a stretch of baseball like he did the second half of the 2018 season. You could see Williams with 10, 11, 12 starts having that kind of a stretch. Man, that would go a long way to determine whether or not the Pirates can be a team that could sneak into postseason with a 60-game schedule.
Yeah, they need that from somebody. But, Williams has shown, like you said, he's shown he is capable of putting together that kind of stretch. Whether it's him, whether it's Musgrove, I'm not too convinced Derek Holland at this stage of his career is going to do that. Or maybe it's Keller, too. I mean, if one of those 3 guys can really be lights out for most of those 11 or 12 starts that you mentioned, then, yeah, the Pirates have a chance. And, I don't know if any of them are. I mean, Williams has done it. Musgrove has shown signs, but not for that long of a stretch. And, Keller is well regarded. But, we'll have to see. But, yeah, if Trevor Williams can reprise the second half of 18, it's going to help the Pirates quite a bit.
All right, John, let's put your prognosticator hat on. I mean, it's a 60-game season, and I've contended you can expect the unexpected in a 60-game season. are there a couple of teams that in a 162-game season, probably not contenders, but in a 60-game season, they could very well upset the apple cart around baseball this year?
You know, one team I like, and, talking to other people in baseball, scouts, front office type people, one team a lot of people, and this is a bit of a surprise, the Toronto Blue Jays seem to be gaining a lot of momentum as, at least with people in the know, being one of those teams. And they do have a lot of young talent in their lineup, including Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Bo Bichette, Dante Bichette's son. And, they bolstered their starting pitching. They signed Hyun-Jin Ryu from the Dodgers, who was the National League Cy Young runner-up last year. They have one of the best pitching prospects in baseball, Nate Pearson, and they have a couple other veterans that they added in the offseason. So maybe I'm going to go with the Blue Jays. A lot of people I trust, a lot of people who really know the game think the Blue Jays might be that surprise team in a short season. So I'll jump on that bandwagon.
I was talking with Anthony, and we were going back and forth before we got you on the air, and I'm convinced Tampa Bay is going to have a better record than the Yankees in the American League East this year. And now that you've mentioned Toronto, the American League East might be a lot more fun this year than it's been in quite some time. I think Boston's down, Baltimore's rebuilding, but if all accounts are true coming out of Toronto, this could be a fun three-way race. And if Boston gets some health, maybe even a four-team race in the AL East.
Yeah, it should be interesting. I think the Yankees and Tampa Bay are clearly two of the best teams in baseball, and at the very least, I could see those two in a tight race all the way through. And if Toronto is that team that a lot of people in baseball expect, then it could be fun, and especially in the short season. I mean, basically, the pennant race starts next Thursday when the season starts. That's going to be the interesting part of this whole thing. It's like everybody has jumped right into the middle of a pennant race. It's not like normally by this time of the year, there'd be a certain number of teams who you would say have no chance to make the playoffs. There already be 20, 25 games out of a playoff spot. So it's really hard to predict. And I know a lot of other people have asked me, too, to try to make some predictions. And I don't really know. I think this is so unique, unlike any season any of us have ever experienced. I don't know what to make of the whole thing. And I think it's going to be very, very interesting how everything unfolds, if they're able to even have a full season with the pandemic. But if they do, I think it's going to be fascinating how this all turns out.
John, is it safe to say that the first 10 games of this 60-game shortened season are going to turn out to be perhaps the most important 10 games of baseball for every team? Because you don't want to get off to a really bad start.
No, I think a 1-9 start, a 2-8 start, I don't want to say completely takes you out of playoff contention. But boy, it gives you an uphill climb in a 60-game season. You're already a sixth of the way into the season, and you're 5 or 6, 7 games under 500. I think everybody, it's always one of those, we'll ease into it, and we got all summer to make up ground if we fall behind. Well, you don't have all summer to make up ground. It's basically a 9-week season, or 8-week season. So, there's not a whole lot of ground to make up. So, I wouldn't say it's impossible if a team gets off to a bad start, but I think it's going to be a lot more difficult than it would be in a normal 162-game season, that's for sure.
Regular season's going to be fun, but the postseason, me and Ron were talking about it before you came on. Once you get in the postseason, it kind of goes back to normal baseball. You can't fake the postseason. You can't fake the better team winning in a 7-game series. Do you kind of buy into that, where once we get into the postseason, probably the two best teams in the postseasons are going to get to the World Series?
Not necessarily. I think, we've seen kind of our share of upsets. You look at the Indians in 2016, and I don't think a lot of people going into those playoffs thought they would beat Boston in the ALDS, which they did, and ended up going to the World Series. And then conversely, in 17, the Indians looked unbeatable, and then they got knocked off by the Yankees in the first round. So, I think the division series has become a great equalizer in these postseason. Like you said, a 7-game series, the better team usually wins, but not so much in a 5-game series in that division series. And you've seen over the years here, especially lately, a lot of outstanding teams get knocked off by lesser opponents in that first round in a short series. So it'll be fun, and I thought it would have been interesting, a 16-team playoff, though I'm not big on watering down the postseason, but I thought this year, because of the unique aspect of the whole season, I was really looking forward to a 16-game playoffs, first round of best of three. I think anything could have happened in that scenario, and I was a little disappointed that didn't work out.
The last time we had you on, John, and before we let you go, I got to ask. The last time we had you on, the strike was, or not the strike, but the inability to get the two sides together was the major topic. And now that we have, and I use air quotes and sarcasm, peace, which there's anything but, you don't have fans in the stands. And Anthony and I have been talking about this. If Major League Baseball wants to make some inroads and to get some people involved that may not be watching baseball, why isn't Major League Baseball immediately announcing, hey, for all you people that are watching Major League Baseball, subscribing to MLB TV, subscribing to the extra innings package, we're going to drop the blackout, the whole rigmarole, because there's not going to be any fans. There's no reason for us to have the blackout. We're dropping the blackout this year. Why is Major League Baseball continuing to say we're going to keep the blackout with no fans? I mean, I don't understand this, John.
I would go even one step further and say MLB TV is free this year. If I were baseball, I'd say, hey, you know, we know a lot of people are in dire financial straits. A lot of people have lost their jobs. A lot of people have had their hours cut. A lot of people have had their pay cut. And we know it's become more of a luxury item to be able to watch these games. And I would have made it free if I were Major League Baseball. It would have been an incredibly good goodwill gesture. But as we found out, you know, Ron, everything in baseball is about money in Major League Baseball, and that overrides any other PR, any other goodwill. And sadly, it just gets more and more money-oriented every single year. And, you know, I just don't like that idea at all, that they still have the blackouts. And, again, it's money. They want to protect the regional sports networks' ratings and things like that. And I think, you know, they're very myopic sometimes. They can't see the forest for the trees.
I got your vote for commissioner, kid. If there's a national election, my name ain't powerful like yours is in baseball. I would be supporting you for the commissioner based on what you just said, because I think this is an absolute no-brainer for Major League Baseball to sit back and feel the pain of all of the people that are living in this country that have gone through the hell that we've all gone through in 2020. The idea, not only do you have to pay for this product, but you still have to have the blackout, even though there's not going to be a single fan in that ballpark except for those that are covering the teams for the various media outlets. It's asinine that Major League Baseball is continuing to do what they're doing. This should be free. The blackouts should be dropped, and they should really take advantage of a golden opportunity, and they're not doing it, and that just bothers me to no end.
It does, and it makes no sense. For example, you know, I live across the border here in Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania, but I can get Indian games on my TV package, even though Cleveland's only an hour and 45 minutes from where I live. Yet Philadelphia, which is 5.5 hours from where I live, I can't get Phillies broadcast. They're blacked out. And I called one time and I explained, I said, I don't really live in the Philadelphia market. I'm 5.5 hours away. And they said, well, you're in Pennsylvania, so you're subject to blackout. And that just makes no sense to me at all. I've never figured out the blackout restrictions, and I don't know if I ever will.
Absurd is all I can say. It just and that's amazing that they would black out Phillies games but not black out the Indians games when you're a lot closer to Cleveland than you are Philadelphia. Like Major League Baseball, none of this makes sense.
And then, when you're one of those Midwest teams that have a couple of states that you represent, like a Kansas City, you got a lot of people that get blacked out because you're part of their coverage zone. But then, you know, it's crazy stuff.
Yeah, it really is. And, you know, I know that when Jeff Passan was at Yahoo, he used to write about that quite a bit. And Major League Baseball would just poo-poo it and say, well, those are the rules, instead of saying, well, maybe it makes some sense. Maybe we should rethink them. And that's the problem. That's why baseball is losing fans. That's why attendance is down. That's why TV ratings are down, because they try to do it. They do more things to alienate the fans than they do to attract fans, and it's really sad. And the saddest part is the people running the game have no idea that they're doing it. They're just totally oblivious to it. That's the arrogance that they have in the central offices in New York.
Well, and these are the same people that are going to be telling 42 minor league baseball cities, sorry about your luck. We're going to move forward without you. I mean, you talk about alienating people. If this happens, and well, Lord knows if it happens or not, due to the fact we didn't have minor league baseball this year, I find it hard to believe that they would do this. But then again, you never know with baseball.
Well, it seems like they're going to go through with it, and it's really sad. You would have thought, especially this year, with the minor league season completely wiped out at all levels, that they would have said, hey, you know what, let's put this decision off at least one more year. I mean, if nothing else, and I mean, even if you're going to cut teams, if you're going to cut Mahoning Valley, if you're going to cut different teams, at least give the fans a chance to say goodbye and pay their final respects at the very, very least to these teams. I mean, these teams are an important part of the community that they're in, and to take them away is bad enough, but to do it following the season when there were no games is, to me, it's heartless.
Cowardly and heartless. Hey, John, always a pleasure. I look forward to talking baseball with you soon, and fingers crossed, anyone that's covering the Pirates or the Indians, you got to stay well away from the other people at work, but fingers crossed our paths meet in PNC or at Progressive this summer.
Sounds good, Ron. Thanks for having me.
You got it. John Parado, he covers the Pirates, covers Major League Baseball, and he is one of the best to do his craft. He is a hell of a baseball writer. I know that.
I'm telling you, I'm starting to get really excited for the start of baseball season. When we're talking to Mandy Bell, we're talking to John Parado, and we're starting to talk about expectations for a season. There's time when we didn't even think we were going to talk about expectations for a season, and now it's starting to get real exciting next Thursday.
I'm going to be honest. I am excited for the season, but I'm also pissed.
Well,
in the same way, because John Parado brought up two really, really good points that, unfortunately, the powers that be are so friggin' stupid when it comes to public relations and just common decency in general. How you can still have your blackout when there's not going to be any fans? Spare me this crap about, well, we have to protect the TV ratings. Wait a second. The folks that are going to be watching Indians baseball, Pirates baseball, name your team here, they're going to watch Sports Time Ohio, or they're going to watch AT&T Pittsburgh, Root Sports out of Pittsburgh. They're going to be watching those channels. I don't understand how, without the fans in the stands, I don't understand how you could possibly be so friggin' heartless to sit back and say, well, because you live in the state of Pennsylvania, not only are you not going to be allowed to watch the Phillies, we're blacking you out. Oh, you can watch the Indians, but you can't watch the Phillies. It doesn't make sense.
Phillies across the state is where it gets kind of silly. I mean, like, blacking out the Indians here, okay, I get, because anyone can go to the Fox Sports app and watch it, even if they don't get Fox Sports Ohio as part of their TV package. So there's going to be a way to watch the Indians, even if you're blacked out on MLB TV or extra innings, if you're in their coverage spot. But when you're talking about you live in the Pittsburgh area, you're not in the Phillies TV coverage spot at all. And you're still blacked out because you're in the state of Pennsylvania.
It doesn't make any sense. And it's the same way in Ohio. If you live in Ohio,
you shouldn't be blacked out from Cincinnati.
You're blacked out from Reds games. I don't get that. How the hell can I be blacked out from a Reds game? I live 5.5 friggin' hours from Cincinnati.
Now the Reds, I don't know because I don't watch the Reds, but they used to play on Fox Sports Ohio, which was where the Cavs play.
Yeah.
Do they still broadcast the Reds games on that channel?
Well, I mean, we were never able to see them.
It used to be Sports Ohio did the Indians.
Yeah.
Fox Sports Ohio.
Yes.
Did the
Reds.
Cavaliers.
Yes.
So I don't know if the Reds are still on that channel or not.
It's the same thing with the National Hockey League. They're just as stupid. If you watch Fox Sports Ohio and watch the Cavaliers, Columbus Blue Jackets are on. I can't watch the Columbus Blue Jackets because I'm blacked out. Wait a second. This doesn't make any sense. How the hell am I blacked out? Well, you're in a National Hockey League market with Pittsburgh. Okay, I understand that, but I live in the state of Ohio. How can I be blacked out from? How am I blacked out from the Buffalo Sabres? Well, you're 3 hours away. Are you kidding me? That's ridiculous. How on a weeknight? I mean, this is how stupid this is. I mean, let me just throw this out here and be somewhat sane in this. If I'm a fan and I decide on a weekday or a weekend, hey, I want to go to Buffalo and watch the Sabres. Or, hey, I'm a baseball fan. I'm going to go to Cincinnati on a weeknight and I'm going to watch the Reds for one night on a weeknight. And I'm going to go back and forth. Nobody in their right mind would do that. But Major League Baseball is basically saying, hey, for you folks that are 5.5 hours away, we're blacking you out. We're not going to give you the chance to watch this team. It's not like I'm going to be driving to Cincinnati for one game and turning around and coming back home the same freaking day. I mean, and you don't have fans. Why are you blacking games out? There are no fans this year. It makes no sense.
Your only option if you're blacked out is to just do the audio because audio isn't blacked out. So you
yeah,
can listen
exactly.
to the radio broadcast, which sometimes is better than TV with baseball.
Oh, I agree with you because there are more characters on the radio than there are on the TV.
But I brought up the Royals gets really silly because the Royals are in like the middle of the Midwest. So the states that hit their blackout coverage, I think there's 5 states that
you can't watch the Brewers.
No.
Can't watch the Twins. Mm-mm. Can't watch the Cubs. Can't watch the White Sox. Can't watch the Cardinals.
But like if you're in Kansas, you're blacked out from Royals games.
Yes.
If you're in Iowa, you're blacked out from Royals games.
Yes.
Nebraska.
Yes.
Oklahoma.
Yes.
And Missouri.
If you live in Kansas City, Kansas, you can't watch the Kansas City Royals from across the river or across the border.
Which is it's a good hour away from the stadium.
And it's
the same
absurd.
city, but it's still.
It is absolutely absurd of those blackout rules. It's absurd. And again, let me just throw this out here again. There are 0 fans in the stands this year. None. Major League Baseball will not have any fans in the stands, at least for the part of the season, and probably the rest of the year, given the fact that COVID cases are on the rise. If we have the 60-game season, which I'm not convinced we're going to have an entire year, neither here nor there. How is Major League Baseball getting away with, we're just going to continue to have the blackouts? You people are utterly moronic and clueless when it comes to marketing your product. And there's a reason why you're on the sinking Titanic now because of idiots that run this organization. I'm sorry.
Did you see the story out of Florida where the hospital printed out that they were getting like 94% positive cases of COVID?
Yeah.
And everyone was in like a panic because that's huge high. And then they came out like a week later and they were like...
It was only 9%, but we put the 4 in for whatever reason.
We missed a decimal. It was supposed to be 9.4%.
Yeah. It's like, oops, sorry about that. Yeah, that's just, come on. You can't have mistakes like that.
No.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, if it jumped to 94% positive, people would be in the absolute sweat panic.
Oh, no question.
So for about a week, the people in that area of Florida were just going nuts.
Look, getting back to baseball, it is absolutely absurd that Major League Baseball has not dropped the blackout television rules, the archaic garbage rules that exist. And I'll piggyback and second what John Parado said. We got millions upon millions upon millions upon millions of people that are out of work. How in the world can you sit back and charge full price for this?
Yeah, $25 a month is...
That is absurd.
I would accept 10 a month,
Yeah. I'll get free. That's fine by me because the season's a wash anyway. Let's go to Rich. Rich, you're on ysnlive.com. What's up?
Good afternoon, gentlemen, and I use that term very lightly.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. and I resemble that remark, by the way.
Say, sir.
Yeah, you guys barely make the cut there, but we'll give you that much.
All right. What's on your mind, brother?
Well, being with my heavy schedule, I managed to sneak in some social media and do some research. Now that Washington Redskins have succumbed to whatever pressure from whatever groups that are causing all this chaos, now New York lawmakers are demanding that the Cleveland Indians change their name. So this has become more than Native American in uprising. Now it's moving into politics, and I'm offended. That's like the flashy term of 2020. Now the politics are getting in on this, and this is becoming a total joke.
Well, I mean, in a lot of ways, the Redskins, and that term has been attacked for many, many years.
Yeah, the Redskins needed to change. I mean, that's just it had to happen.
Although
it's been going on for years, and Dan Snyder has put his feet into the ground and been really stubborn about it, but it's needed to happen.
Although, and this was again 25, 30 years ago, the last time they did a poll of significance.
But then I mean, the question: who are they polling? You don't know.
They were polling Native Americans, allegedly.
Which Native Americans are they? Because there's different.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of different.
There could be Native Americans
groups
that are very, still instilled in their culture, and the Native Americans that have kind of watered down what their, ancestor culture is, and they would be less offended by a term like Indians or Redskins. But the people that are absolutely still instilled in their Native American culture probably do not like the term Redskins at all.
From the Indians' perspective, Rich, I have a friend of mine that is pretty prominent in this business, and he's a big Indians fan, and this was prior to Chief Wahoo being exterminated by the organization. He would go out to the Southwest. He'd go to New Mexico and Arizona, and he would be on native tribal land with Chief Wahoo gear, and he would get the stink eye from a lot of Native Americans looking at that and not very happy with the caricature. Now, I kind of sort of understand that, but the term Indians, again, and this is coming from someone who has very limited Native American blood in me. My great-grandmother was half Native American, so that makes me 6.5% Native American.
Okay.
I am not offended by the term Indian. It's wrong to say it because Christopher Columbus, when he
thought he was in India,
thought he discovered America, which he really didn't. He thought he was in India, and he saw a bunch of people that he called Indians because he thought he was in India.
Exactly. The whole I know that part, and the people who do not know that part just don't get it. Indians are native of India, not Northeast Ohio, not Southwest United States.
Exactly.
Okay, and Chief Wahoo, okay, say what you will, but he was smiling all the time. There was never a mean look.
No, it was a fun caricature that I grew up as a youth. I liked Chief Wahoo. I liked the fact that was the caricature of the Indians, but
it was a lot better than their original.
The original was god awful. This one was much better, but I mean, I could see the connotations where Native Americans might be a little disappointed in the crooked nose, the red face, I could see their point of view on that.
Okay, to solve the Washington Redskins problem, instead of the face that's been on their mantra for decades, how about a Redskin potato? And you can still call it the Washington Redskins. Then what's someone going to say? That's all I got. That's all I got to go with. Have a great day, guys.
Brother, appreciate it. That's good. Although, and I remember this because I saw it very briefly growing up, and this was way before your time, Anthony. But if you go back, into the very early 70s or late 60s, the Redskins did not have the Native American emblem. What they had was the letter R with a circle and a feather that attached to the circle.
For about 2 seasons, not too long ago, they changed their helmet. It didn't have the Redskin on it anymore. It had more of the Florida State Seminole arrow.
Yeah.
And I think that's when
that was the old school Redskin logo, where they wanted to go back old school.
I kind of like those dark burgundy uniforms with the dark gold.
Yeah.
And the dark gold face mask with the ear. Those look pretty sick.
Yeah.
But you know.
And again, I mean, the Redskins, they're going to keep their colors, which they should. I mean, the burgundy and gold is gorgeous. I mean, it is a stylish-looking uniform, no questions asked. Could they go to Warriors? They could. I mean, Golden State might have something to say about that.
I think they've been so. I think they should. If I were them, I'd go away from Native American lingo completely because of how much pressure they're under themselves. Indians, we can talk about that. That's a different story. But I think the Redskins would be smart to stay away from Native American terms.
If they went with a team that began with the letter R, and it was Native American, Red Bulls, Red Hawks, Red Wolves, you could still get away with the logo that was in the 60s and early 70s with the R and a feather toward the back of the R. You can still get away with that logo. I don't know if they're going to stay with a nickname that begins with the letter R, or they're just going to blow it up, leave the colors, and go another direction. As far as the Indians are concerned, you know, can the Indians stay with Indians? Well, it depends on who they talk with. My thought is they're probably not, because you don't bring up the fact that we're thinking about changing our name without already deciding, hey, we're changing our name.
Well,
we're just going to, you know.
I've said it before. I think the reason they did that is they wanted to get out in front of it.
Sure.
And it was a really smart move so it would at least appear that they were having discussions before someone came out and FedEx, came out with the Redskins and said, we're not going to sponsor your name anymore. Nike dropped all their merchandise off their website. So before anything crazy like that happened to the Indians wanted to get ahead of it. And that was a very smart move. So they might not have made a decision, but they made the PR decision to get out in front of the problem.
And, you know, I mean, it depends on how well they want to remarket the team. This is a golden opportunity, and we've talked about the business of baseball. This is a golden opportunity for the Indians to make a ridiculous amount of money, depending on how sick they have their uniforms, sick in a good way. If they have a really, really good uniform and a good ball cap, there's going to be people that are going to want to buy that product, and that's going to put extra money in their pocket.
I'm scared it'd have to be pretty good to outweigh the people that are mad that they changed their names from the Indians. Because I don't know how many people would say, oh, you changed your name from the Indians, I don't even want to buy your stuff because I'm so mad that you're not the Indians anymore.
And there are people that way. And again, I've said all along, look, my problem with the Native Americans, and it's not a problem per se, but my problem with those that didn't like the name Indians, you protested to get out in front of the camera at convenient moments. My problem is you only protested on opening day. You only protested when the Indians were ever in the playoffs. I've gone to Progressive Field, Cleveland Municipal Stadium, and I'm not kidding when I say this, close to 1,000 times in my lifetime. I have seen, and I can count on two hands, the amount of times that I have seen Native Americans protesting, not on opening day and not in the playoffs. If I was as pissed off about this as Native Americans allegedly are, I would have been protesting every day the Indians were home at Progressive Field. If it weren't me, I'd be someone within my tribe that would be up there on a daily basis. Every day, every night that stadium is open, I got someone there to peacefully protest, hey, we want to educate you people on the fact that you're offending us. They didn't do that. They had their own time and their own place to get their own 15 minutes of fame. That bothered me and still does. If you feel passionately about something that is bothering you, as much as the term Indians bothered the Native Americans, then your ass should have been in front of that stadium 81 times a year, last year, the year before, the year before, the year before, all the way back to the time that you were first offended by this name. Because otherwise, all you are is a person that's looking for 15 minutes of fame to get your name out there so you can become, quote, famous. That's all you've done.
Yeah, they were definitely very strategic, and they wanted their protest to come on the times when it would get the most exposure.
Exactly. That bothers me.
That's fine if you're protesting. I'm not saying you have to go to 81 games out of this, but if you're at least, putting in an effort that when you're not getting all that exposure, because it's strategic to go and want to put a little bit more effort into the times that you're going to get more exposure.
Oh, sure.
But I think if it was as serious as they were taking it, like you said, they would be there a little bit more than that. And maybe they are, and we just haven't seen it. Maybe they're just trying. I mean, I don't know, but maybe they're doing stuff from the behind the scenes.
I got to be honest with you. I go out of my way to make sure that I see an American Indian or a Native American protesting, and I can count on one hand in the last 10 years the amount of Native Americans that I've seen protesting other than opening day and the postseason.
Like I said, they could be doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes.
Could
too.
be.
That's not exactly out in the streets with a sign. That's not the only way to protest. I mean, so you just never. They could just be staying completely away from the stadium completely.
And they could be. But again, if I'm that mad, I'm going to be doing some protesting on a daily basis as long as the Indians are home. Because if I'm offended, I'm offended. Now, having said that, do you change the name? Again, I'll leave it up to the Native Americans that they speak to. But I think that their mind has already been made up, whether you like it or not. The mind's been made up because it's already out there that they're thinking about changing. That's code for they're going to change the name. Get prepared for this. Now, the million-dollar question is, and it's literally millions of dollars that could go your way. What do? Do you go off the, pardon the pun, do you go off the reservation and you choose another name? I had to throw that in there. I'm sorry. Or do you go within the family and say, okay, we're going to drop the name Indians, but we're going to go with what we have been called for years and years. If you don't call the Cleveland Indians, you call the Indians the tribe. So we'll call ourselves the Cleveland Tribe.
They get that okayed, I'd say keep it simple and just go with the tribe, because it doesn't change your brand, and I think it'll appease a percentage of the people that will be mad if you changed out of the Indians. There will be a percentage of them that won't be as mad as if you completely changed the name and went with a completely different kind of ideology. I think all of them would be upset. But then if you stay with the tribe, there'd be a percentage of them that kind of appease them a little.
So the Cleveland Steamers will probably not be the nickname of Cleveland. Yeah.
Like, that doesn't really instill fear into the hearts of your opponents.
Yeah, a little tugboat on Lake Erie. Probably not.
Neither does the Rubber Ducks.
Yeah, well, hey, look, the Rubber Ducks.
They're fearsome, man.
But you know what? That stuff has been selling.
Yeah,
when I tell,
it's awesome. Their color scheme, I love it. The
color scheme and everything about it.
The electric blue with the orange and the black.
Yeah,
it's sharp.
Absolutely, and we laughed when the city of Orlando lost their minor league baseball team, and the group that bought the team decided to move the team to Montgomery, Alabama. And I remember this like it was yesterday. It was the 2003 season. My first year in Jackson was the last year Orlando had their AA team. And we were told Orlando is going to be moving their minor league baseball team to Montgomery, Alabama, and they're going to be named the Montgomery Biscuits. And we all looked at each other and said, what the hell kind of a name is the Montgomery Biscuits? And that merchandise went off the shelves immediately.
When you go kind of zany and wonky, it's going to sell. So, at least the minor league level. I don't know if it'll fly at the professional level.
Yeah.
So we'll see. It'll be fun.
And the more I thought about it,
I'm interested to see what the Redskins do and how they handle it, because I think they've just put it in the hands of Ron Rivera and Dan Snyder to say we're going to name the team.
Anything in the name of Dan Snyder is not going to go very well. He touches something sports related, and it pretty much turns to garbage overnight. It's just he's one of those guys that is the epitome of how not to run a professional franchise. And I've said this for years and years and years. I was on terrestrial radio over 5 years doing sports rep when I was at iHeart, and my number one commandment, if there is a commandment, on how to run a baseball team or how to run a sports franchise, it's real simple. If you're an owner, this is how you run your franchise. You let your players play. You let your coaches coach. You let your general manager be in charge of the business aspect of the game. You let your president be in charge of the business aspect of the dollars and cents. And you as an owner sit on your collective behind with your family in your owner's box, and you get the hell out of the way unless someone asks you to be a part of the process.
And then there's Jerry Jones.
And then there's Jerry Jones. And then there's Daniel Snyder. And then there's Jimmy Haslam. Yeah.
Jerry Jones, man.
But Jerry Jones can sit back and go, we've won a lot of Super Bowls. Well, yeah, you've won Super Bowls because Jimmy Johnson was the brains behind the organization, and your ego was dropped a little bit, and you guys were able to work until your ego got out of control, and then you thought you knew a little bit more about this. No. You're a businessman who doesn't know squat about football. Know your role and shut your mouth, and, well, you now know why the Cowboys haven't done anything
Quick on
since.
the Cowboys, because they decided not to pay Dak Prescott now, they're going to pay a lot more for him down the road. And I think they missed on that big. I mean, they franchise tagged him. They're going to let that go. They're going to pay him somewhere around $31 million this year, $34 million next year, and then they're going to end up having to pay him a lot of money.
He's not worth it.
He's not. And if they would have just paid him what he wanted now, it would have saved them money in the long run.
Honestly, I'm taking another quarterback, and I'm going to take my chances with
Cowboys,
that other quarterback.
With Dak Prescott and Andy Dalton, they're paying way too much for their quarterbacks.
Oh, my God, absolutely they are. It's ridiculous.
When you look at the Patriots, they're paying $2 million for two of them.
If Dak Prescott does not have a solid game, the Cowboys lose. And he doesn't have a solid game all that often. So that just... The growth of Dak Prescott, and this is a huge year for him.
He's middle of the pack.
Exactly. If he doesn't become an elite quarterback this year, he's never going to be an elite quarterback. Forget about Dak Prescott. Go somewhere else with your quarterback. All right, we're going to take a timeout. On the other end, we'll put a bow on this bad boy. It's the Wednesday edition of Running Point. Stick around.
They say American craftsmanship is making a comeback. Of course, at Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods, it never went away.
People are floored by Baird Brothers' authentic hardwood floors. They stare at our stairs and adore our doors. Baird Brothers reflects 3 generations of family craftsmanship. Visit our huge in-stock selection in person or at BairdBrothers.com.
Baird Brothers, our family's heritage, your family's home.
Planning a project around your home or rental property? Trust the electrical service to the local experts with 62 years of serving the Mahoning Valley. Joe Dickey Electric is your local go-to source for responsive, reliable residential electrical work. From everyday maintenance and repairs to new installations, electrical upgrades, and safety inspections, no job is too big or too small. Call Joe Dickey Electric today, 800-549-3976, or visit DickeyElectric.com. That's DickeyElectric.com.
Myers Family Insurance knows the importance of a great team.
Our team continues to grow to help you with your Medicare and retirement needs.
The annual election period is here, so it's all hands on deck to make sure your plans still meet your needs for 2020.
Call us today.
Hey, my Ohio friends, it's Mike Ditka, and I know great talent and heart when I see it.
I can tell you from firsthand experience, there are average real estate agents, then there are true champions. Kelly Warren is one of those champions, and you have her right there in your own backyard. Kelly outmarkets and outsells every agent in the Mahoning Valley. If Kelly can't sell your home at a price and deadline you agree to, Kelly will buy it. Get your home sold. Call Kelly Warren today at 717-2689 or go online to kellysoda.com and start packing.
You can feel it. Baird Brothers' traditional craftsmanship. You can see it. Baird Brothers' timeless style. And you can afford it. And find everything at BairdBrothers.com. Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods is real hardwood, yet beautifully affordable. Floors, moldings, interior doors, bar rails, and stair parts. All within your means and without a care. Start at BairdBrothers.com. You have made it. Your home.
Teams work hard and give it all they've got. Well, so does ours, because 21 Sports and YSN give you extra effort when covering local sports. 21 Sports and YSN, winning coverage of our Valley's teams.
Well, what a busy show we had today. Many thanks to Steve Leslie, who was our B-League spotlights with the Astro Falcons 16U team that has done so well this year. Also, Brian Tolnar, who comes on the show every Wednesday at 1 o'clock to talk golf, talk the PGA Tour, and more importantly, the fantastic piece of advice that he gives. John Parado, and we love talking with John because that means we're talking baseball, and John started talking a little bit about what to expect with the Pirates, and I'm kind of excited. And again, a lot of stuff would have to go the right way, but that pairing of Cool and the name just escaped me, Brandt and Cool together, it could very well be a lot of fun for one pitcher if you combine those two together as for one starting pitcher in a 60-game season.
Yeah, and it's like we talked about it. It's going to be fun just to see what kind of teams handle the 60-game season better and which ones don't. And there are going to be some wildcards. He brought up the Toronto Blue Jays, and they weren't even on my radar. I thought they were going to be a 500 team, at best. And apparently some scouts are saying Blue Jays are going to make some noise.
Kind of makes me want to go down to Mountaineer and see what the odds are on the American League East and maybe put a couple of dollars on that team. I'm just saying, I'm not going to go full blown like I would with Tampa Bay, because I think Tampa Bay is going to finish with a better record than the Yankees do this year. But I wouldn't surprise me, given all the talent that Toronto does have. All right, that's going to do it for the show. Power Hour is coming up in just a bit. Enjoy that. We'll be back on Friday. Gary Houstu will be giving us a ring as we talk about his brother's Memorial Golf Tournament for various charities, and we'll get into the Chuck Houstu Memorial Golf Tournament. We'll get into that talk on Friday. Don't forget Governor DeWine's press conference at 5:30. It's obviously must-see because all the TV stations in the state are going to be televising this press conference. Who knows what's going to happen? We'll talk about it on Friday, though. Power Hour coming up. Have a great